Good evening and welcome to the Greg Thompson Sports Show. You are joining us here live as we get ready to jump into our 32-man mock draft exercise for the night. We are joined by, Chris Seth, who's on here with us all the time. And this week, Chris Trapasso. Chris, how we doing?
Doing very well. I'm a little nervous about what we're going to do here at 28 and at 60, but this is, like you said, a fun exercise to do with like 5 days to go to the draft, just to get a little glimpse of what the Bills might have to ultimately do in their war room.
Absolutely. So this is the second year in a row that we've done this. It's a really fun exercise. We just started the draft. It has begun. We got 2 minutes to pick. It's going to go hot and heavy. Chris, why don't you tell the folks why you are now on deck here in the 3-hole?
Yeah, so I've got the Minnesota Vikings as my team for tonight, and we traded 11 and 23, and next year's round 3 with my new best friend Matt Dygert, who's the GM for the Patriots tonight, for 1.3. So we are on the clock.
Which that's a really bold move, because I think most people see them going up to get like, oh, they're going to have to move up and still only end up with McCarthy. And being able to get into that top 3 to get one of Daniels or May, I think is a really slick move there to not have to worry about that. Although I guess I'm a little curious if the Patriots would do this. So, Trapasso, when on your board, how do you have those quarterbacks? Do you have McCarthy in the same tier as those top 3, or where do you have May versus Daniels?
Yeah, I have Drake May and then Jaden Daniels, actually.
Okay. And I think what I do with most people I see have that.
Yeah, like with quarterbacks, even if like the Bills aren't involved, obviously just for my job at CBS, I watch the quarterbacks like as early as possible, so I'm not like subject to any like pro day buzz or like any craziness. So I watched all of them like the first position, and it went Caleb, slight gap, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and then a pretty big gap, and then JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, and then Bo Nix.
Okay. Yeah, so I do think, obviously I get it. There's going to be buzz, as each year you have guys that rise and fall. And normally rise and fall is more so, fans and outside folks catching up with where the league often already was. But the McCarthy run of like, oh, maybe he's a first rounder, to, oh, maybe he's going to go, he could go as early as that Denver, Minnesota, Vegas run, to now, oh, you have to move up into the top 5 or 6 to get him.
It's crazy.
It's been wild. It's just been crazy.
But we've seen it before, though. I mean, there's so many quarterbacks. It happened with Zach Wilson, happened with Trey Lance. With Baker, I was going to say, it even happened with Baker Mayfield jumping out, over everyone in the 2018 draft. So it almost feels like there's, I won't say every year, but it feels like every other year there's at least a start of draft season. Maybe he's a second rounder, maybe he's a first rounder, and then he ends up being like the second pick in the draft.
Yeah. And then, I mean, last year we almost had the opposite where, hey, there was a lot of talk that Levis was going to be the Colts guy at 4. And then when he wasn't, not only was it not at 4, he went all the way to the second round and didn't go until there. Wait, are you drinking Gator Light right now?
Oh my God, I am. Same.
That's so funny. I saw your bottle go up and I was like, wait a minute, that's what I'm drinking right now.
Let's see who the
here in the chat, someone is aware that I needed to replenish some electrolytes after last night. I had a little too good of a time. Last night. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Which I would be down with that.
And the Giants wasted no time. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So see, some guys. Well, of course, if you're here and Marvin Harrison Jr. falls in your lap, you smash the. You like sprint to the podium.
Yeah.
Well, so as part of our prep, is Chris and I, Trapasso and I are going to be the Bills GM tonight. We were exchanging some messages, kind of preparing, and there's a chance, and I think this is pretty realistic on draft night as well, that if one of those top 3 receivers you start to get to the 8, 9, 10, 11 range, it becomes expensive, but maybe palatable. But I actually think what we're seeing here is the reality. I think that it's going to go, 3 quarterbacks, 3 receivers in that top 6 to 7, depending on where McCarthy shakes out there. So I don't think one of them's even going to get to the point where it's an option for us.
Yeah, that's probably true. Although we'll see what The Chargers to me are so hard to peg because it's like,
yeah, what does Harbaugh want to do?
Yeah, it's like Harbaugh being this forthright and just saying like, hey, I love offensive linemen. I'm on brand. I want to pick an offensive lineman. Or is their GM like, let's say that and then it's like trade back. Let's pick a receiver. Let's pick Marvin Harrison Jr. because we've seen him up close and personal in that Michigan-Ohio State rivalry. That's the one team that's kind of hard to peg. And I thought it was interesting last week that their GM said, we're not going to make a fair trade. We're going to make one that looks good for us on paper. So they're the one team. I mean, there's a few teams that we don't really have totally nailed down, but the Chargers, to me, whether they trade back and let another team trade up for that fourth quarterback or go offensive tackle or go wide receiver, it's really hard to figure out right now.
Yeah. I see, the combination of, letting both receivers walk. So it'd be different if you still had Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, but both walked, but you also need to protect Justin Herbert. I think like getting whoever's there out of the three seems like a good choice to me. But if you told me it was Joe Alt, heck, with Harbaugh and Greg Roman, if you told me it was Brock Bowers, I'd believe it. It's hard to see it, but I think it makes, if I was GMing the Chargers, I would pick whichever of the three receivers is there to go through in that route. Here, this I think is the most choreographed one in the draft.
Yes,
Joel,
100.
It's got
to be all.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Okay.
it'd be crazy not to. That they obviously still have Hopkins, gave the monster contract to Calvin Ridley, brought in the Cowboys running back. Who am I drawing a blank on?
Tony Pollard.
It's a weird amount of investment in that offense, but I guess if you're going to do it, you're going to find out what Levis has. Yep.
So in this scenario, let's just kind of run through this and do a little play-by-play. Like we're kind of out of the wide receiver. Big three went back to back to back, which like Greg was saying could very much happen on draft night. Like I said, just the Chargers, it's hard to peg what they're going to do. Greg and I talked beforehand, like the Bills are talking this week. We're not keen on anyone else. I like Brian Thomas a lot more than Greg does, but Greg's the GM and kind of view them more like that he's part of the group or of the second tier, you said, right? As opposed to, he's there at 17, we need to get him.
Yeah, I think that it's perfectly reasonable to have Thomas Jr. as wide receiver 4. And I think a lot of people do, and a lot of really smart people do. I think that once you get past the top 3, you get into a like
cluster.
Beauty is the eye of the beholder. And is it like for some teams, it could make sense for Ladd McConkey to be wide receiver 4.
Sure.
For some teams, it could be, what your background information was on AD Mitchell. I would guess, obviously I have no idea. My guess is more teams have Brian Thomas Jr. as wide receiver 4 than any other receiver.
Sure.
But if I had to guess out of the 32 boards across the NFL, I bet you there's 5 or 6 guys that are wide receiver 4 on someone's board.
It's not unanimous.
And I think a lot of fans, because the whatever you want to call it, that you have a healthy chunk and a lot of people that have Thomas Jr. I think a lot of fans now see it as, he is definitively wide receiver 4, and that we got to go up and get him. And there's a point where I think, we got to trade here. So
NFC North
Lions, the in division trade, moving up, a big move up. I'm curious who they moved up for with those 3 receivers gone. I'm curious who they.
Maybe one of the corners.
Yeah,
moving all the way from 29
Arnold,
behind the Bills.
Yeah.
So
from 29 all the way to
probably 9. Should know how this works to go look at what the trade parameters were.
Maybe it's in the chat.
I don't formally see it. I know how to offer one. I know how to accept one.
Yep.
I don't think I know how to look and see what they gave up.
So I was just looking in trades for me, and it just shows the trade I made. It doesn't show all the trades. So it's not under there either.
And it wasn't in the chat either, was it?
Yeah. And I know this happened a lot before. A lot of people talk in DMs on Twitter because almost everybody joined through Twitter. So that was where a lot of the discussion was. But yeah, so as Chris was saying, like I think it's very logical for anyone to have Brian Thomas Jr. as wide receiver 4, and if he's there at 28, that's a sprint to the podium pick for me. Like that's fine.
I
like
think
he's
so. Yep.
he's a really good fit. It's a great fit because we need not only a receiver, but we need the size, speed, X receiver, like outside receiver skill
And that's
set.
what he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I was talking about, where I could see some teams having different guys and that, we could use take the top off guy that's in. So we want Xavier Worthy or Troy Franklin, or hey, we need a guy who's a separator and is going to get open, and they value McConkey or Pearsall or Roman Wilson, or and I don't know how many chunks you want to go through. Some people just have one wide, 12 receiver second tier. It's probably not quite that broad, but let's see what we got here. The Detroit Lions moved up for
Terry Arnold.
I could see.
Yeah, I figured it had to have been a corner, like you said, unless they really love Brian Thomas. But okay.
Click the here we're getting some help in the chat. So click the arrows next to one. That at least somebody
if you just hover, if you just hover, it'll bring up a window.
Okay,
this is pretty cool technology, even for 2024. This is pretty sweet.
Yeah, it is.
To get the interactive,
really cool.
like other people doing it on the clock, and it's all pretty seamless. It's running really well. Okay, Bowers, that's another choreographed one, right? I mean,
that
feels like if he's there, Aaron Rodgers is making that pick all day.
Yeah.
And then
the
here's
Patriots dropping back to 11 and getting McCarthy. That's one where
your trade, Chris. Okay.
Yeah, if that's their guy, they would see that as a huge win. That you picked up an extra first and still got your guy.
To me, that feels like where McCarthy. I mean, I don't have him graded as my 11th best player, but like that feels more palatable for me for JJ McCarthy to go at 11 as opposed to like a team trading extra future picks to get him at like 3. Like that seems too aggressive to me. If this is how it plays out, I think that makes way more sense value wise, team fit wise. Drake May goes to Minnesota. The Patriots move back. Oh, hey, look, like Joe Alt's gone. Like we don't have any of the receivers available. Let's just pick JJ McCarthy here. He's young. He needs development. Same deal with the Patriots roster. That makes more sense to me than supposedly what might happen on draft night, where it's picking up more steam that it could happen that JJ McCarthy actually goes like in the top 5 or something like that.
Yeah, and I think when you see the success that whether it's Purdy, obviously we've seen Cousins, we know even Jared Goff, like the quarterbacks that have the accuracy and anticipation in that Shanahan type system that can work. And that, if, I actually think it's really funny if it goes the other way around and let's say the Patriots sit at 3 and take Drake May and the Vikings, then whether they trade up a little, a lot or whatever, but they end up with JJ McCarthy, just simply based on the surrounding cast, there's a good chance JJ McCarthy is going to look better than Drake May because he gets to play with,
it's a great cast
in Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones in the backfield. And,
sorry to interrupt, Greg, but next.
Whoa.
No, that was spicy. That was spicy. I was not ready for that one there. But
wow, that's sassy. Although, so let's we'll talk Bills centric here. If you want to tell yourself a story of how the right guy falls to the Bills, it's extra quarterbacks going. It's all the corners, all the offensive tackles like that. We need those are position premium. Those are premium positions. We need all of those to go. That's how you get the right guy to fall to the Bills.
Yeah. So then these two are like our computer picks, right? Bengals,
yes, correct. So these two will run the full time frame and then go through. I think that there ended up being 3 teams that we ended up having, or 4 teams.
What do you guys think Cincinnati does? Because what I don't understand is that so Joe Goodberry is like my guy, being from Western New York. I followed him forever. He's like thinking they're going to go D tackle or maybe offensive tackle. And I know that their tackles are a little older and they signed
that Trent Brown deal. Yeah, the Trent Brown deal is only like a 1 year, really cheap deal. Honestly, I was kind of shocked how cheap it was.
Okay. Because that was one that I mean, like you're saying for the Bills, you're like, hey, let all the offensive tackles go too. To me, they picked Miles Murphy last year out of Clemson, the edge rusher, and it was like almost announced, like this is a red shirt pick. He didn't play a lot last season. to me, it would be, and maybe this is just thinking of it very narrow-minded, but just it would be weird to me if they're like, hey, back-to-back first-round picks that are like not going to play as rookies, because they don't want, like, they wouldn't want that offensive tackle to play this season, would they? I mean, no.
Yeah. Well, hell, if you go back Dax Hill, you're talking 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
So it'd be 3 years in a row where you have like a redshirt year, and not that that's the end of the world, but you're eating up one of the most valuable years of the rookie contract, not to get any value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we will have a couple folks that will jump on with us to help talk through as they're making their pick. And our first is joining us here now, our guy Anand Anduri. How we doing?
What's up, Greg? What's up, Chris? How are we doing, fellas?
Good. Doing really
man,
well. Anand is GMing the Rams for us here, so they're coming up in just a few picks. How's your board coming together? This is weird. How do the Rams? Do they remember how the first round works?
No. So everybody talks about Sean McVay and his offense and how awesome it is. Sean McVay's never had a first round pick. The last one we made was Jared Goff in 2016.
Crazy.
So,
Jeff Fisher.
So crazy.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
And to a little bit of what the Bills try to do when they brought in Von Miller, every now and then a team kind of sees a quarterback and they want to go with mercenaries. But this was a full New Orleans Saints. We're going all in on this 1 year build. And I strongly recommend doing the exact opposite of that, even though it worked. You had a 4 seed playing a 4 seed in a Super Bowl. That really doesn't happen that often.
Favorable results.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a really, really unlikely result. As much fun as it is, it's it ain't that. That's not very common. So
how about this? Do you think they're going to make the pick? Do you think they sit and make the pick, or do you think they move back?
I can see them moving back a little bit if there's enough value. I think we're looking at a spot where when you're sitting at 19, so much of the draft that happens in front of you has nothing to do with what you do or don't want. Kind of the same thing that we're mocking out now. If we have quarterbacks go earlier than we thought, all the receivers go earlier than we thought, then maybe you stick and pick and hope that you find some value. At the same time, Les Snead is a whore for draft picks. We know this. And as much as I love my guy, like, I can't sit here and confidently tell you, yeah, he's definitely taking a guy at 19. I will say that I think that if they do take someone at 19, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Schrager that came in and said that it's going to be offense.
Yeah, I saw Schrager say that like, if I could tell you anything, it's that Sean McVay's first round pick is going to be on it for his offense.
Oh yeah,
I mean Jared versus. So this is one that Trapasso and I talked about coming in, was that, hey, would one of those 3 pass rushers sneak their way down? And I did. Latu is still there. So
Latu is still there, and Chop, yeah.
Versus there. So Chris, where are you on Latu? In most draft experts I've talked to say, hey, everything I can see, he's a top 10 pick, but I can't see the medicals. So where are you on him as a prospect versus anything you've heard on the risk factor?
Yeah, I think the risk of the health concerns is legitimate. I mean, I don't dabble too much into that because it's always hazy. Are you getting some BS to have him fall a little bit?
Yeah, there's somebody trying to put smoke out there.
I mean, so it's kind of hard to really bake in the medical stuff with him. But yeah, I think on film he looks like a top half for the first round guy. The only slight concern I have, he is an older prospect. He's older. He's over 23, and his RAS was very good. This is Latu, by the way. But a lot of that was buoyed by how big he is, but he's not incredibly long. The 3-cone wasn't amazing. So I think there are some little minor dings that you could see where maybe it would precipitate a fall down, along with, obviously his medicals as well.
Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah, the 16th percentile.
We got really short arms.
Percentile arm length. By the way, the fact that their format here has the mock draftable webs built in,
it's so good.
It's fantastic. It they do such a nice job. This is a really slick tool.
Oh, there's Brandon.
Okay. That's fun.
So Anand, I was gonna live while we were here, maybe talk a little bit about a trade if Thomas Jr. had made it to 19, because my co-GM here, Chris, is a big fan of his. So if he was still there and we got to like 17 or 18, I was gonna maybe make an offer to go from 28 up to 19, but now I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about so much of this is misinformation, right? It's
Yeah.
all of these teams have their boards together, and like we saw, you know, there are both sides of it. One side of it is it takes one team to like you.
Yeah.
The other side of it is it takes one team to poison the well, whether in Indy or somewhere else, to put the seed of doubt in someone's mind that you may not be what you think they are.
Yeah.
Because again, we had this entire industry of people, myself included, that were convinced Malik Willis is a round one pick.
Yeah.
Didn't go in the
I
first
thought so
two
too.
Before
rounds.
you came on, we were
Yeah.
talking about Will Levis was going fourth to the Colts.
Will Levis was in the top 5, and suddenly he's not even in round 1. Nobody would trade to 32. The Titans wouldn't even trade up 1 pick for the 5th-year option. And so, you know, as much as we think we know, the age-old, you know, believe everything you hear in February and March and nothing you believe in April. I think if you stick to that, you're at least going to get like 65% of this right, which is more than most can say. Because I think at this point, a lot of people are just trying to throw out takes for the sake of takes. But I love Brian Thomas Jr.'s game. I think that any piece of the LSU offense that you can grab from last year of those top 3, whether it is Jaden Daniels, whether it's Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas Jr., I mean, they're just awesome. All of them are awesome. And that's why that team, despite giving up 50 a game, still stuck in a lot of those SEC games they had no business being in.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, we got the Seahawks pick in here.
Greg, did I see on there as you were scrolling that the Chiefs traded up twice in front of the Bills?
So yeah,
Or
so
what's the deal with
one of the you know, parts that does come into play when you have humans doing this is they don't have to worry about their future or any job. So trading away your second rounder plus next year's first and next year's second, they don't have to worry about getting fired. So we've got a couple significant.
So the Chiefs have
moves
24 and 27.
Yeah, correct. So at least one of the receivers is going to.
What did they give up to get to the Cowboys pick at 24?
Fourth.
Oh, a fourth, and then but the other one is the big one, like you just mentioned.
Yeah, that's the one where they gave up their second plus the first and the second next year.
Yikes. I don't think Brett Veach is doing that.
Yeah, that one may not actually pan. All right, so Anand, talk us through. You're up here in just another pick.
Quinion Mitchell, first of all, Toledo, tore up the Senior Bowl, absolutely abused every MAC wide receiver that he could find, which is a good thing, right? If you're going to be a step down in terms of competition, we want you to dominate everybody.
Yeah, you got to dominate.
If we're going to go to top to middle, top half of the first round, but I mean, not having Brian Thomas and multiple tackles going is not optimal.
This is not ideal. This is not your plans.
No. I mean, I think if you're,
what do you think about Murphy as a Donald replacement?
I don't think that anybody's replacing Aaron Donald.
Well, yes, correct. That is very, very factually accurate. But you know, officially playing next to Kobe Turner and being the guy who could try.
To me, I think that there is a specific archetype that they look for here, and this would be my guy.
Ooh, like
maybe the biggest human. The pictures of him next to the other guys, every interview or every pro day. It's just the biggest human. He's so huge.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So where are you on obviously the sustainability and the number of games that he played? Where is your head at as far as concern with whether that translates or not? I
think a big part of it, no matter, you're always mitigating injury risk as much as you can. A big part of the Rams plan in 2021, 2022, when they won that title, is we think that our, in the building, their thought was our injury prevention team, the way that we go about doing things year after year after year, leads people to a little bit longer off of IR than other teams allow. And so I think that that's kind of their angle here is we don't get a ton of first round picks. We don't get a ton of picks, period, because a lot of them are moved for known assets beforehand. And so when they take guys, they take a little bit of a risk on a guy like Puka Nacua last year, who, showed promise at Washington. You've heard what Rome and Jalen and all those guys have said about him while he was at Washington. Goes to BYU. Again, injury bug hampers him. I don't think that concerns them as much as it does other teams, because I think that they think that there's an advantage that they have there somewhere in that scouting department and somewhere in that development department where they can make up some of that ground.
So, Chris, we just received a trade offer.
Yeah,
the Giants want to move up to 28, but they'd want us to drop back to pick 47.
That's
it's a little far. I'm not. It's not terrible. Like I think it's not unreasonable, but
I don't
get the you get the future second, which for the Giants might be a pretty good pick. But it's probably a little far.
Yeah, that's too far to move back, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of picks to get.
Chris, as Anand was kind of talking through his logic for it, I started to build a little bit of a board. Just some of the guys who are out there and available, as we now are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 will go before us. So 8 guys here.
Okay.
Talk me through a little bit how you would sort some of these guys who you would have up a little bit higher. So I just this was in the order they had it. Latu, Murphy, Eugene, A.D. Mitchell, Johnny Newton, Graham Barton, JPJ, Damian Robinson, and then I grabbed the 3 down here: McConkey, Worthy, Frazier, and I have Leggett after Frazier.
Okay, I am lower on Graham Barton than most people, and that's of course understanding that he's going to be a guard. But if you love him, I get it. You're the GM. I love Chop Robinson. He's actually my edge one. The youth, the bend, the explosion, the production.
Oh, you have him as your edge
I have
one?
edge 1 and Latu edge 2. I just think at 21 years old, the production that he had down the stretch, you saw some pass rush moves. I think he is like all pro potential. Now you would like to see him have more moves like Latu has, but and kind of like Jared Verse, but I just think his upside is exactly kind of what the Bills need, that they need that kind of Von Miller build edge rusher as opposed to the bigger just edge setters, the AJ Epinesa types. But yeah, that board looks pretty good. And I like Cooper DeJean, but it's like, I just don't know if you get your bang for your buck with a safety in the first
It's really
round.
hard to get. It's really hard to get.
You know what I mean?
The value for a safety.
Even at 28, like you're not expecting to get,
I guess
rookie of the year.
You think it's a Kyle Hamilton kind of player, that's it, but it needs to be to get that value for a safety.
What about you? I mean, you're the GM. Let's see. I mean, is this how you would have it stacked, or is this just?
I've got it. Yeah, I've kind of shuffled around a little bit here.
Okay.
I agree. We talked, kind of prepping and coming in. Let's see Packers took DeJean.
Oh, there you go.
Don't have to worry about that.
Which that makes sense for them.
That's the most Packers pick of all time.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Big Ten country going from Iowa to Green Bay.
Oh yeah. Wait. All right. We got another trade offer here. What do we got? Okay. So 128. We dropped down to pick. What's that? 38. And we'd get the Titans' future second and their earlier fourth.
But then we're also trading
our future second. So obviously,
it's basically to move up in the second.
Yeah. So you'd be getting, ideally the 60th pick for the 36th, but whatever that is next year. That's not crazy. It's better than the other one.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know how this would work in real life, but maybe we should just wait and see if it. I mean,
yeah, I'm not going to.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not going to
don't reject it. See if they. Oh, Latu just went, which that makes sense for the Eagles.
Yeah. So the Patriots going to get their second first rounder here after the trade with Chris. They're on the board, ready to.
Wow. Yep.
So Chris, you said 11, 23, third. You said.
Yeah, 11-23 in next year's third. Yeah.
There goes Lad.
Literally like the most Patriots pick possible. Lad.
And then
and they jump up and take Leggett. So Chris, talk through where do you have Leggett in your tier of receivers? I know you're big on the breakout age and
sure. He's like in my tier 2 or like top of tier 3. I don't not a fan of the age, the 1 year of production and the one thing. He broke forced 9 missed tackles on 71 catches last year. That's not like Deebo Samuel numbers. So he's fast, 6'1", 220, 4.39 speed. I think there's potential, but I think he's a little bit more raw and not this, hey, just throw him the ball. He's going to make 10 guys miss, turn a bubble screen into a touchdown. as much as I think some people, and I'm not calling anyone out, but how the consensus is kind of informed on Xavier Leggett this draft season.
So with the couple that are here, I think that we have there's 4 picks to go, and I think there's a couple players that are maybe a little bit higher than the others here. Where would you be on a Byron Murphy or an AD Mitchell versus Chop Robinson?
You could convince me Byron Murphy, because I'm the biggest believer that the Bills need more interior pass rush. They need someone next to Ed Oliver that's going to get up the field and pressure the quarterback. Obviously, Ed Oliver has the breakout season, but I still think even after re-signing Daquan Jones, bringing in Austin Johnson, they need someone on the inside. And I think Byron Murphy is like a top 15 talent in this class. So this is not Miami. This is Baltimore. Okay.
Baltimore moved up to take Latham. Okay. There was just a quick trade. They got a late third to go from 25 to 30. The Dolphins actually traded down twice, I think. They initially got so they had the Dolphins GM has picked up 2 third-rounders. He went from 21 to 25 and then 25 down to 30.
I thought that was going to be JPJ there.
Yeah, I could have seen that as well.
That makes sense.
All right, Tampa Bay.
So right now, with the receivers that have gone,
a lot have gone. What, 6 have gone already?
6. Yeah, 6.
Thomas, 4. McConkey,
Greg and
5,
I said before this, we're like,
6.
I bet the receivers are just going to fly off the board in this mock.
Yeah, well, especially in this exercise, like the sexier position. I'm actually a little bit curious in the real draft. Does the depth of this receiver class almost make it easier for teams to wait because they know they can get someone they really like in the second, and maybe it ends up dominating the second round more than the first round that many people assume? Now maybe not, people's boards are their boards. They'll pick where they want to be, but it's interesting how that could influence.
And like Greg and I were talking before, that you have all this depth at receiver, even like on day 2, some really quality players. Greg and I think, and I like kind of wonder both of your other thoughts on the edge rusher class. We feel like day 2 is like barren. Like there's just not that. Yeah, there's a big drop off at the edge spot, and I think that's certainly a position that the Bills need to address.
Yeah, I mean,
Chris, do you feel the same way about defensive tackle as well for this class, or just edge specifically?
Just edge. Like I think the Brandon Dorless, the Chris Jenkins, Michael Hall from Ohio State, Rook from Clemson. I think
who's the guy from Duke,
Dwayne Carter. Like there's some names that are actually kind of fun at defensive tackle on day 2. The edge rusher spot is like just it's difficult. Like there's just not that many that really excite me that could be that pick at 60.
All right, so
Andrew Worthy goes for Kool-Aid.
Chiefs go up and double dip at receiver with 2 first-round receivers. Can you imagine if Bills fans saw that in real life?
Oh my God, it would be Twitter.
I'd never log on again.
How bad would it be for you
never
guys?
log on again.
It would be bad,
dude. I would just log off on my phone. I would just.
So, Greg, what are you thinking?
All right. So, I think this is where it gets hard on. It's so easy to see like the consensus larger boards where I think most places have Byron Murphy pretty, healthy above Chop Robinson. But like you said, position need, the drop off at those spots. Right now, my head would be one of those 2 defensive linemen, and then maybe try to move up from 60 to get another receiver here. We do have the offer in hand to drop from 28 down to 38. I obviously we wouldn't get Murphy. I guess there's a chance we could get Chop. Depending, where they have him ranked, it's possible we could still get him there.
Another one.
We now got another trade offer. We get a 4th and a 7th to drop to 1 spot higher.
That's not. It's not trading a lot over.
Correct.
I don't love either of those.
Yeah, I think we got to make a pick here. You know what? I'm gonna trust your board. I like it. We're gonna go with Mr. Damian Chop Robinson. We'll take the pass rusher, and now we need to be able to move up. And I think really look at who's there at receiver now. A.D. Mitchell, Troy Franklin, Keon Coleman, Ricky Pearsall, Roman Wilson. So where are you on where's Jalen Polk for you in that next tier?
He's like near the top of tier 3 for me.
Okay.
I personally wouldn't like trade up from 60 for him, but I know that there's a lot of people that I respect in the industry or people that are just covering specific teams that do like him a lot. The contested catch ability is tremendous. That whole Washington receiver room was like insane at catching the football for Michael Penix. So if you're really like feel a strong conviction about Jalen Polk, just to add a receiver to this group that has a lot of versatile weapons, I would be fine with that.
Curious. So obviously, I think a lot of people would have A.D. Mitchell a pretty healthy chunk above the other guys that are there. I'm trying to find a spot where maybe it would make sense to.
Were you trying to get ahead of the Panthers there at?
Yeah, that's why I was looking at the Cowboys. Was I think although there's a good chance the Dolphins could take Mitchell right here.
The Panthers definitely want to move up. They're trying to get out of round 2 and back into round 1 for a receiver. Yeah, and granted, if the board looks like this, I don't know.
Yeah, what is there, like 7 or 8 receivers?
That's insane.
Yeah. So from a value standpoint, I wonder we'd have to give up at a minimum would be the future second, if not more.
Let's see. I have this trade chart here.
Yeah. What does it show we would need to do to get up to 31?
Yeah, my old editor built this thing, and it's amazing. You can just like type in the picks, and he has like the history of all the picks, obviously. Let's see, was it 31 is what San Francisco has, correct? The Bills are at 60. So you were thinking
I had the future second, and then I put in a 5th and a 6th just to
future second.
Add a little bit more.
Well, the 60 and a future second gets pretty close to 31, and on here it gets to 50. It gets to 33. Like between 33 and 34.
Oh, so and I had a 5th and a 6th added on there, so that
probably I mean, if that GM is paying attention to something like that,
is using a similar tool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see who the Dolphins get here.
This is their first pick in this.
Mock, yeah, they of course there we go. Took Mitchell. So yeah, the fact that so that's Tom Ernest, who is with Dolphins Talk, and is always a big fan of ours, comes on for all of our Dolphins Bills previews. So he ended up moving down and picking up 2 different 3rd round picks, got later thirds, but ended up getting 327 and 329 and still getting A.D. Mitchell, which, if they just sat there and took him at pick 21, nobody would have batted an eye. So
good point.
Pretty savvy move for them.
So with Mitchell gone, which receiver stands out to you, Greg?
So it's funny. I am kind of confused by a lot of the testing didn't match what I thought Coleman looked better than what the testing was, but that freaked a lot of people out. I like, the speed for Franklin is exciting. But the build is kind of scary. Like that slight build is kind of sketchy. Obviously, I love Pearsall and Roman Wilson are guys that I don't think maybe have the ceiling that some of the other guys do, but also I think have really high floors. I think they're going to be good NFL receivers. So I think I would still want to try to find a guy like Coleman because of the fit, or with a Franklin if we felt comfortable with his size. Who stands out for you, or who's still there in your second tier?
Yeah, I mean, Troy Franklin, I think I have him graded at like 37 or 38. Okay. There was something that came out, and again, I'm not trying to get into the weeds of like hearsay and speculation about things off the field, but that the combine, he was like sick and he lost weight, and that's why he was like 176. And then it shows here that he was 187 at his pro day. So he did bulk up, which 6'2", 187 in this day and age, which wide receivers are getting lighter and lighter, is fine. The 176 or 173, whatever he was at the combine, was kind of freaky. Like you don't see, you see Tank Dell at 5'9", or 5'9", 5'10", 165. That's fine. but 6'2", like that's just kind of a weird build. I would lean Franklin. If you like Keon Coleman, though, I mean, again, like I think picking a receiver, because I'm of the belief that the Bills, they need like an outside receiver, of course, but I don't think that this offense is going to be funnel through one receiver type offense anymore. And it was that with Diggs. It worked. He won a receiving title. The Bills were really successful on offense during the Diggs era, of course, but I don't think they necessarily need and really even want that anymore.
Where are you on Javon Baker?
Absolutely love him. Like, I was wondering
There we go.
why he wasn't higher.
That
is one that I cannot peg, because it seems like I've seen things like mocks from like Dane Brugler had the Bills picking him in the 4th round. A few people I've talked to in the league were like, oh yeah, 3rd, 4th round. I'm like, I see a 2nd round receiver, but who knows? The Chargers.
Yeah, the phrase I use for Baker repeatedly now is in college he's been playing wide receiver at a 301 level. Like, he will set you up with leverage. He understands how to get DBs turned around. He understands how to play along the sideline, his footwork. You know, there are some questions with drops for him, but I put that probably almost as much on their quarterbacking as I do anything with him, because he'll turn around and make a phenomenal one-handed catch on the next play. So I'm with you there, Chris.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Carolina goes Jackson Powers Johnson. It's a little surprise. Must feel like they can still get the receiver they want at the 7th pick there.
Patriots. What do the Patriots do in the 1st? Or do they? Oh yeah, they.
So their combination, they got JJ and McConkey.
Okay.
And then add Keon
Coleman.
Okay.
Chris, I was going to ask you: are you more of a fan of, because it seems like Buffalo doesn't need to run their offense through one receiver anymore? When you have a guy that's as good as Diggs, it makes sense to do that.
Sure.
But now that you've got a class that's as diverse as this one, does it make sense to kind of double dip on day 2 as opposed to trying to push yourself into round 1? I know we've seen a lot of people kind of throw out there that they're going to try and get into the top 10 for one of the top 3. I just don't see them doing it. Instead of that, if they're stuck there and the board kind of falls the way that it fell for us, where you have 6 or 7 go before the Bills take a receiver in round 1, do you see them moving back and trying to double dip in day 2, trying to find the archetypes that kind of fill out a wide receiver room, as opposed to finding a true alpha, which really outside of the top 10, it's going to be hard to identify truly in this class?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And 100%, I think that would make sense. I mean, Greg and I now are trying to move up into round 2 to get the first receiver. But if they can, I mean, whether they do that or just wait until 60, and then maybe from a couple of those 4th and those 3 5th round picks move from 128 into the 3rd round to double dip on the 2nd day, like you're mentioning, I think that actually makes sense. And in your question there, I think is a very important point, that just fill out the wide receiver room with different skill sets, different sizes. Add, like a Malachi Corley and a Jermaine Burton, something like that, to really be able to like line up anywhere. Have Kincaid, have Shakir, James Cook out of the backfield, and just an array of skill sets, as opposed to, here's our prototypical wide receiver. They're going to be smaller. They're going to be separators. They're not going to be great after the catch. That's always something I've been kind of truly banging the table for the last 3 years, that the Bills need to be better after the catch, when the Bengals and the Chiefs and the 49ers and the Eagles, the other elite teams the last few years, have been so good after the catch. They can throw those bubble screens and get positive plays out of it. That just really has not been a part of the Bills offense.
Yeah, and I think that also goes with the depth of this class. If you told me that, the Bills didn't pick a receiver in the 1st round, but they came away with, and it's Javon Baker and Malachi Corley and Malik Washington or something like that, but, that could end up being really, really good. It doesn't only have to be a 1st round pick to make an impact, but it is hard when you see other teams, making moves and picking out guys.
I wonder if, it's very easy to look at the Chiefs and go, okay, what have the Chiefs done? And I do think that like Brandon Beane has mentioned, that not that they're just drafting and signing players to beat the Chiefs specifically, but I wonder if there's any following what the like Green Bay Packers have done post Devontae Adams trade, because the year after they traded Adams, they actually triple dipped at wide receiver in a draft. And like now suddenly it's like, man, like that is a team in the NFC that's like they have the young quarterback, they have a just diverse, like we were talking about that diverse room of wide receivers with Dontavian Wicks is the bigger burner. You have Romeo Doubs, you have Samari Torre, you have who's the Melton?
Oh, Jaden Reed.
Bo Melton. Like there's just they literally went like, let's just keep rolling the dice at receiver. I mean, I don't know
multiple tight ends.
Yeah, and added they drafted, back-to-back tight ends last year. So I wonder if other teams, including the Bills, post, trading your elite receiver, are maybe even looking at the Packers as more of a template as opposed to just the Chiefs.
Which I think makes all the sense, right? Like,
some of your fans are in the chat.
What up, John? Yeah, it was interesting to me because you see guys like McConkey and Pearsall that teams are definitely gonna have early day 2 grades on, where it's more of a positioning argument as to how do you see these two side by side versus do you prefer one to the other and how far apart are they for you? Because, if you're in the late second trying to get all the way up into the late 30s or in the early 40s is going to cost you significant capital in a way that, if you think that they're comparable players, if you think that they can solve the same role in your offense, if you sit there and you think you can get a comparable player 15, 20 picks later, I think that's the way to go.
For sure.
Buffalo's range of outcomes here at wide receiver in this draft is just, to me, one of the most interesting things that we have going.
Good point.
Yeah, and it's heck, depending. So say it went like this, where we get the run at receiver, so we're not going to reach at 28. We take a premium position that does impact the team. Say we do get a guy we like here at 60 or a slight move up from 60, and we end up with someone that we like. I don't think it's out of the question that we see something. We wake up on Saturday morning to some news that comes up on, the Bills have traded for whatever, a Cortland Sutton, a Tyler Lockett, Adam Thielen, they add another guy just to have another veteran in the room. Because right now, the longest tenured wide receiver on the Buffalo Bills is Khalil Shakir.
Crazy.
It's just super weird. It's so
Is
weird.
that serious?
That's true.
He has been on the Bills longer than any other receiver on the Bills.
Yeah.
Matt Collins and Curtis Samuel, Justin Shorter hasn't played. Like, it's very much turning a new leaf.
Factually, it's one of those weird, freaky facts. Yeah.
Panthers want Peyton Wilson, not a receiver.
Yeah, Jackson Powers Johnson and Peyton Wilson, both good players.
Yeah.
But kind of shocking that they didn't. Matter of fact, I was trying to trade up because I was assuming they were going to take Troy Franklin. So that was interesting. TJ Tampa. I know Mel Kiper's a huge fan of TJ Tampa.
Yeah, loves him. He always brings up his tackling and how big he is, I love Mel too. He always brings up his tackling and how big he is, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, but like, is he a really good cover guy?
You gotta cover, You gotta cover some really fast.
I was gonna say, if you like tackling, save yourself a round and a half and take Malik Mustafa out of Wake Forest as a safety. Big dog.
Dude, I watched the clips from his pro day and he takes his shirt off to do the vertical leap, and I'm like, this is like a freaking Marvel character. How is he built like that? It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
What are you thinking here in round 2 for the Rams? 52.
They're just the problem is you're backfilling so much stuff that it's basically, I think, if in round 1 you're obviously looking for O lineman to kind of extend Stafford's career, if you can find a wide receiver that's worth taking there, sure, at 19, pull the trigger. But so much of this here is just where the board falls to you because years and years and years of trading draft capital over and over and over again have kind of left you needing to fill a bunch of holes. Interior D-line, obviously, but it's so hard to find interior D linemen that matter at that level if you don't get them in round 1. And so from there you kind of look, and your next question is DB. I'm not taking a linebacker.
Speaking of interior D line, Braden Fisk just went, one of the kind of
Like him
hotter
a lot.
risers here this season.
Like him a lot, but I think you're just trying to round out your roster however you can. Best player available. Obviously, there are a couple of different areas that you'd like to select from, but it has to be best player available just given the capital that you have.
Yeah, really. Incoming. Let's see. Yeah, where do you see that trade?
Oh, the 49ers want to move up for a future pick.
And that takes us all the way out of until that's trading out of a whole round into the back.
I'm so confused. Did they mean to send us something else?
Yeah, that's.
Why would you give up 2 seconds for a third?
Yeah, that's weird.
I'm confused. I'm confused. All right, 49ers GM is fired. It's
It's great pick.
Nice Melton.
Fuck.
Melton.
I like that one a lot.
I think he's gonna go like this early, if not earlier, in the second round.
I think so too. Teams
Big testing numbers. Yeah.
Fuck.
How about where Anand, where are you on Sane Russell?
So I think kind of, in talking to a few people, there are two guys that I think that are kind of misunderstood as prospects. Cooper DeJean is one, Mikey Sanders still is the other. As teams move to more of a force defender nickel spot that we kind of treat as a star, these guys are only going to be more and more valuable that you can move inside and out. And as a Buckeye, I watched Mikey. He's a fucking dog, man. Like
he's still good.
He reminds a ton of Bills people of Taron Johnson.
Yeah. That's your archetype. If you want Taron Johnson, draft Mikey. Dude is just 100% nails and dog. You cannot find a more football player corner than he is.
Yeah,
I like Abrams Drain a lot too. I know he's got some injury concerns, but I totally agree on Sanders still. But I think just seeing Abrams Drain there, I'm a big fan. He's a little smaller. He's not quite as compact, but tackling all the same kind of annoying nickel corner stuff, he does really well.
Got a run here. We got Tampa, Melton, Rakestraw, all bam, bam, bam.
Rakestraw's a fun one. It's like, do I want Kyrie Jackson 2 rounds earlier? Because he has a lot of the production that Kyrie just doesn't.
I'm trying to see if Troy Franklin's still there.
He's sticking out, I think, at this point.
So I'm trying to see if
that's scared.
See, that's the thing. It's like I almost feel like it might take, maybe it's the NFL, maybe it's just us doing this exercise, like maybe one more draft to realize, like, hey, receivers are not 200 plus pounds anymore coming into the league, and that's okay.
Yeah,
like, there's just not
I would hope Tank Dell
really
helps.
Fair.
I would
Jordan
hope
Addison
Tank Dell's season
too.
really helped.
Jordan Addison.
Yep.
So it's like,
obviously we've seen Devontae Smith and what he's done. Yeah. Those are just archetypes that could not have played previously, and not only now are they playing but thriving. And
I think it's valid inside too. Like watching people succeed as an archetype, and this is not to go on a tangent here, but this is what I hope the Bengals don't do with T. Higgins. If they let him go, I hope they don't try to replace T. Higgins with T. Higgins just because it worked once.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There aren't a whole lot of guys that fit that archetype. That can
most of
what
the Mike Evans,
does.
T. Higgins don't work.
No. And I think that's where a lot of teams get caught up is they're trying so hard to replace what they saw work before, as opposed to, hey, this guy can get open.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. We'll see what they do.
Let's see.
Because there's not really, outside of Rome, there's not really like this, oh my God, amazing contested catch that guy in this class. Ooh, there goes Franklin.
Someone's going to fall in love with Keon.
Yeah, that's true. But
I
didn't see that on film, though.
Some point is going to have some, especially if you're an offensive head coach and or an OC that has power, much like a McDaniel had in San Fran while he was there. someone is going to find what they want to find in Johnny Wilson.
Yeah, true.
Hey, real quick,
agree with
Chris, we
that.
got an offer to move up to the pick right now, which I would have done if Franklin was there,
Dang.
giving up our 4th to go from 60 up to 46.
But Franklin
Is
just
there-
went. Is there anyone
So,
else?
yes, he just went. So it would be for Pearsall, Roman Wilson, or right now I would be probably fine waiting and just hoping to take, if what out of Pearsall, Wilson, obviously Javon Baker probably towards the top of my list.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, if Franklin was still there, that would have been solid. But
Yes, correct.
I would've
I
done
would have
Yeah.
taken. Oh, there we go.
San Marcel's gone.
San
Oh,
Marcel.
that's so much fun. If he's a Colt, that's so much fun.
Oh,
Yep.
put him out. Talk about a guy who stood out last year at the Senior Bowl, watching Juju Brent do a lot of those same things there. I'm really hoping he gets a little bit more run this year. It was weird. I was super high on him, and then he couldn't get on the field for them. It was really odd.
Mm-hmm.
That was a weird year for the Colts across the board.
Yeah,
Man.
We'll chuck that one out and figure out what we do this year.
Well, and especially now, obviously getting a healthy Richardson season, I think it's a lot of
think they're
possibilities for them.
I think they're hoping that they end up with what you've got in Buffalo right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Next QB.
that's what you're
That's
hoping.
the dream.
You get
Yeah,
it.
that's the
I
dream.
mean, he's just a freak.
No one like him.
Who is this going to be? Who did they pick earlier? The Giants.
Yep. Nice.
Oh, I was wondering where Penix.
Nice.
That's nice.
Yep.
If they
That's
were
that's
like
good
it,
for them.
That's
I like
great.
it. To go with Marvin Harrison Jr., great.
yeah.
Sign me up for
That's
that.
They
great.
get Harrison
Yeah,
Jr.
man.
at 5, and then you get Penix Jr., where now there's no stress. You're getting him at like pick 47. There's no pressure on a guy going 47th. Like there's no expectation there. You can ease him in. You still start with Daniel Jones, let it play out, and hey, never know.
And
If
draft
he's a guy
more
that they
offensive
felt like his
linemen.
knees were
Every
going
offensive
to
line.
stay connected, I think go a lot higher. All right,
What did
so
the
you got
Jags
4
do in
more
the first
picks
round?
here.
Yeah.
Who are you
What did the
looking
Jags
for
do in
in
the first round?
Quinion Mitchell.
Oh, Mitchell.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
yeah, I don't think they did anything else. Yeah, just Mitchell.
It's a great pick. No matter where
Yeah.
you get him, yeah.
Yep, that worked out really
so
well
good.
for them. Absolutely.
And again, so much of this is, we're going to boil it down to, well, what kind of line can they put around him? How good are the weapons going to be around him? So much of this is, can Trevor Lawrence take that half step in Jacksonville? Because, I mean, the big leap, I think, has happened, even if the numbers don't show it. If you just watch him, he looks like a different player than he looked in 2021, 2022 even.
Man, if Jacksonville adds Quinion Mitchell and Chris Jenkins, that'd be a nice.
That's a good haul for them to
Fun
start.
team.
That's a good
man.
day. That's a good day. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're just hoping that your quarterback takes that last half leap into, I am 100% sure that they are elite.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously the flashes, that the playoff run they had, you've seen the moments. It's just there has been, like you said, that half step. Like there's just a level of consistency we haven't seen, really pull everything together. It's been a little, just something lacking. I don't know exactly what it is.
And suddenly the AFC South is somewhat fun when it's usually not.
Yeah,
With
Talk about
the
Stroud
Texans,
being a part of it now. If
obviously,
Richardson works out, like there's heck, the Titans are going to be a game 4th best team. Like that could almost, like you said, go from laughing stock where it was always like the technical qualifier stumbling into the playoffs to now like, hey, this might be fun.
Are we about to enter a world where the AFC South is better than the NFC South? Are we ready for that?
Oh, wow. You got to brace yourselves for that one.
Are we ready for that?
That is nuts to say. To hear that is seems not like in this universe. Raiders are taking a while here.
I have no idea what the Raiders are doing, period. Vic Tafur coming out the other day and saying that they like Penix at 13 was like, oh, wait, what?
Well, we got offered for Aiyuk.
Oh. So
How do you do that?
now,
in
if
there?
you're
Is
in
it
this
just-
position, it would be, I don't even know like how
can you
you do that. It would basically be,
Oh, you're just basically like
we would
Dak
offer
Prescott.
like a future first, and I would just ask for like a fifth or something like that, and be like, oh yeah, and Brandon Ayuk.
yeah,
So
you can't
would
click on their
you-
roster.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't let you pull up players on the
Okay.
roster, so we would just kind of say that's what it was for. I would be much more open to trading next year's first for Ayuk than trading this year's.
Okay.
I
mean, I could be convinced.
Brandon Ayuk.
I think he's a stud. Like, I mean, he was a second team All Pro last year, but I think he could have been a first team All Pro. The routes, yards after the catch, he's still young. I mean, you have to pay him, obviously. That's the sticking point. Yeah, getting into the second round, I think it makes it more possible.
Well, and especially now seeing, we also have an offer of Cortland Sutton for a 4 and a 6, which I think is pretty accurate value.
That's probably about right. Yeah.
But this would be so, in real life, I think obviously there's some fans in the chat that don't love the way the board fell for us here and how we ended up. But I think, in reality, if this is how it started to come together, maybe that does trigger a bit more activity on that veteran receiver market.
For sure.
So, Anon, who are you hoping makes it one more pick to you?
Well, first of all, I'm hoping that Brandon Ayuk is a Bill because that's just awesome for
Just super
everybody.
fun.
Yeah, just fun to watch. I mean, you've seen the archetype work before with Diggs, so at least you're not totally guessing on whether or not having a wide receiver one carry the load can work for a squad.
Yeah.
The guy that I'm hoping is obviously, I'm a big Ricky Pearsall guy.
Okay.
I love him. Love McConkey. I think that the guy that a lot of people are looking for in Rams land was Xavier Worthy, just to kind of play the role that Tutu Atwell never quite could play, the role that they signed, Deshaun Jackson to play 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Not quite the same, but fun, no less.
Here we go. Steelers take.
Figures.
Oh my Lord.
Good one.
Okay.
Good pick.
We
Did
have
we just
just
get that
traded for
trade?
Brandon Ayuk.
Oh my gosh. Love it.
Yeah, there we go.
First rounder, and we got a fifth.
So there we go. Is everyone in the chat more excited now?
There you go. Now it's board fell terribly. Like 10 receivers went in front of the Bills in the first round.
So
Then-
that triggered us to make a move. We have now traded for Brandon Ayuk. And yes, it is going to take some cap gymnastics, but it's actually Ayuk is the more doable. It's actually would be
Corley,
much harder for a Higgins or even a Justin Jefferson, anything crazy like that. It would, but with just doing like it's Ed Oliver and Matt Milano and a handful of other pieces, we could get up to the 12 and 13 million that we need to fit his initial deal. And then once you reach the new extension, we can get that cap space back with the first year cap hit.
Yep.
And be able to go through. So I think that's a good
and I
spot.
think
Now,
to trade next year, just very quickly here, Greg. Trading next year's first might seem, I don't want to say too steep for Brandon Ayuk, but having that extra second rounder in the Diggs trade makes it a little bit more easier to digest, I think.
Well, and think about it in that same combination here. We basically would be trading Diggs and a first for Ayuk in a second. Yeah, and the Bills second versus the Vikings or the Bills first versus the Vikings second, you're probably talking about 12 picks different, 15 picks different. So you're probably moving down from the 25 to 30 range, or obviously pick 32. Don't want to be crazy here. And then you're moving down to the Vikings with a rookie quarterback are probably going to be competitive, but in a really tough division. The Bears just got much better, and the Packers and the Lions, I think it's very reasonable. The Vikings pick 40 to 44 range, like that. I think they're probably picking in that 8 to 12 range, something like that. you never know. Rookie quarterbacks have good seasons, so he's not in a bad situation.
Yeah.
But they just went 7-10 with Kirk Cousins. I don't know that I expect Drake May to come in and immediately be better than Kirk Cousins. So I think that having that combination is pretty exciting to be able to go through.
For sure.
Something
Definitely
that
will make fans a lot happier.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, there are Devontae's what? So tell me about. I have not heard more varying. Hell, not even that varying. I don't know if I found anyone who likes Devontae's Walker.
I do not. I mean,
I
don't want to come on here.
Anybody who likes it.
I don't want to come on here and be like this curmudgeon, but I think it's very easy to just say, "Hey, I love this guy. I love Sandra Still. I love Max Melton." But you certainly have to talk about the other side of it. And I think he is like stiff. He's fast, but beyond like just running fast, I don't know like the nuance. I don't think is there as a route runner. After the catch, he doesn't really give you a lot. I think he's more of like a third or a fourth round pick as opposed to a second rounder. But because he's bigger and he ran in the 4.3s, I won't be shocked if he's picked somewhere in this range in the actual draft.
Yeah. There certainly is some interest, and I know going into the season, I remember watching for Drake May during the year and how they were talking about this new transfer coming in and how what a big deal it was that he was going to get to play. I kind of expected him to be in that like second tier of receivers, right there with Mitchell and Thomas Jr. and those guys. So when it got to draft season, and literally, like I said, no one likes him. It's it's hard to grasp.
Greg, before you go into it, you need to go do the full rundown on Tez Walker. This is not I'm a Tez Walker guy by any means, but the reason that so many of us are out on him is what it took for him to even play this year. The NCAA denied his waiver for months. Like, there's a lot going on here.
I was confused. Like, I thought it was like the Wild West. I thought like in NIL, everybody could transfer whenever you want, however you want. I was like, why was he the guy getting hung out to dry? Yeah. I was confused.
He transferred twice, I think, and that was the problem. Even though the first time was he never even saw the field. He transferred and then transferred again, and then North Carolina was his third spot. And so they quote unquote burned his COVID transfer on the first. It was a bunch of nonsense. Truly, he was one of the few that did have legitimate reasons to transfer and get that hardship waiver that they talk about, but it took them way too long and he never quite adapted. So we don't know what he is. He is a physical specimen. That's the info we've got.
Yes,
absolutely.
That's
the info we've got.
He's big and fast and maybe can catch footballs. Maybe. We're not sure. By the way, we didn't talk. I love the Malachi Corley pick. That's there of Corley, Baker. Like I mentioned, Malik Washington. Like I think there's some guys who are going to fall through the cracks just because of how some of the big names at the top of this class, and some of those guys could end up being, again, it's nobody's going to be Puka Nacua. I don't think we're going to set the record for rookie receiving yards 2 years in a row. But there's going to be some later guys that are going to end up looking great.
I hate when we do that. It's who's the next CJ? No one.
Every year we always think it's
coverage.
be
no
the
one.
next year's draft. Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
Come on.
When we open up Saturday morning and you go to the desk, like, all right, guys, who's this year's Puka Nacua? Well, the answer is no one.
No one.
No
one. Yeah.
Player X had a completely rare year. Who's next to do that rare thing?
Yeah.
Like,
Who's
no
also
one
going to
is.
have
like, shut up. That's what makes it rare.
Well, Calvin Johnson went for 2,000. Who's the next one to do?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So,
all
Greg,
right,
what are you thinking
closer
here?
Picks?
D-line or safety?
So one, I don't think it's. I think it's still in play that they could look at one of the receivers. I think it opens up some things differently to be able to look at the type now having Aiyuk in hand. I do like I by far the thing I'm most frustrated with not having the third round pick is the depth of the safety class, because I think there would have been a really nice safety sitting there in the third round, and that basically whether you like Bishop or Bullock or Kitchens or Nubin or whoever it is.
That was the spot for them.
Yeah, like it would have been just a really nice spot of, hey, one of those guys is going to make it to our 3rd round pick and just take whichever one makes it there. So
I love Jaden.
Which one?
I love Jaden Hicks from Washington State.
Okay.
He's my
Okay.
safety one.
I see Nubin as a lot of people's safety one, but I don't. I haven't heard a lot of people kind of advocate
on film,
for him.
He was, but if you check his mock draftable, it's bad. Like he had a really bad workout. So that kind of, I'm obviously always factoring.
Turn some people off.
Oh, he didn't work out at the combine, but his pro day,
his pro day was very poor.
Well, it was like he ran in the high 4 or mid 4.6s maybe, or high 4.5s, but like the broad vertical all were like lower level. Him and Kinchins didn't really test well.
Where are you on Cooper Beebe?
I think I have him
or
around
Christian Mahogany or any of those other that kind of next Rosengarten, Zinter.
I love Rosengarten. I have BB as I think he's my number 100 or 101 player. And then Mahogany, I just did not see it. I thought he was not very well balanced, not super strong, not a great pass protector. But maybe D line though. Do you think anything like interior defensive line here, or do you think the Bills are more set there?
I do think that they need one. I do think that obviously bringing back Daquan Jones, adding Austin Johnson.
Okay.
I feel pretty good at one tech. I feel like they're in decent shape there. I don't think that Dwayne Stevenson, Washington,
Carter,
Deshaun Washington, Deshaun Williams,
Deshaun Williams.
Yeah. I think he's like a fight for the last roster spot kind of thing.
Yeah, me too.
So Washington's offered us a future 3rd to drop from 228 down to 3.3, which isn't too far.
And there goes Nubin to the Texans.
Oh, Nubin just went.
Okay.
Devondre Sweat's still there.
Devondre Sweat is an enormously fun human.
6'4", 362. Look at
and
that.
Every single penny
radar chart.
That is the funniest chart. That is so perfect.
What? 99
awesome. 99th percentile. So, and he also technically jumped. We're not 100% sure how high. We couldn't see underneath his shoes, but he technically jumped. We're pretty 7%. Sure. We're pretty sure.
All right, Greg, you take this one away. Whatever you're thinking here, even if you want to double dip, like we were suggested earlier, I'm fine double dipping at wide receiver if there's a receiver that you love. I would lean D line, interior D line, like 3 tech, or like we said, you can look at the edges, but I don't know if there's going to be anyone there.
So we got Chop Robinson to feel good there.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
I do like Rook.
I love Michael Hall, by the way. I think he's going to be a stud. I mean, he's young, but what he was doing at 20 years old at Ohio State was pretty impressive.
I don't feel strong. I would probably take the trade.
Okay.
I would probably move down. We gave up our future first, so now we got 2 seconds, 2/3 next year.
That's out.
I feel better about that. And I honestly feel like, wherever we're leaning, whether it's like I said, a double dip or one of the D linemen or one of the safeties, like I feel like we're still going to be able to get the same type of guy. I moved up, got Jalen Polk. I like Jalen Polk. If we hadn't traded for Aiyuk, he's a guy that I think we certainly could have considered there. We also could still take. I mean, hell, getting a Brandon Aiyuk makes me more comfortable with Roman Wilson being the pick, because now he can be like you said, like, hey, just we'll get him out there and you can shift around what you're getting out of Shakir or whoever Samuel and Wilson. You can move them all wherever. The end of that edge tier is dropping quick.
The best advice I can give my fantasy football folks: draft Dalton Kincaid often.
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Yes. Yep. He is going to receive the football. So we just had a crazy run there, a couple in a row. So Jalen Polk, Tyler Nubin, Jalen Polk, Braylon Trice, Roman Wilson, Andrew Phillips. And we are up in 3 more picks here. So, all right, let's start to build out a board here. I am going to put Javon Baker.
That would be fun.
I'm gonna put Cooper Beebe.
Okay.
I'm gonna put. They have Rosengarten 103rd.
That seems low.
That seems low to me too.
That's a little crazy.
I think
but
he's around
I'd put
3,000.
Hicks on there.
is what it is.
Yes.
Oh
yeah.
I agree. Where are we at here?
They have strong, probably strong safety. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hicks.
Okay.
I like there.
Bishop, Kitchens.
Amagaji's so much fun if you need a tackle.
Amagaji, I know, man. He
So
reminds me of Trey
much
Smith, honestly.
Doesn't he?
I mean, different, playing SEC and playing in the Ivy League is totally different, but the frames are similar. The demeanor on the field, the power, like I don't think he's going to be a tackle, but he just gave me so
He's
many
not the
traits.
quickest dude in the world either.
No. But I think he's decently explosive, like in a straight line for his size. So I was watching him and I was like, who is he reminding me of? And I was like, oh, it's Trey Smith. Like, just
the power will allow him to get away with stuff that his lateral footwork does not.
Good point. Absolutely. I agree with that. Do you like Michael Hall, Greg?
I do. And like I said, I agree. I like that entire. There's a nice chunk
doorless.
Here. Yeah,
Wingo,
Carter,
not bad,
Wingo,
McKinley
guy. Jackson, like Mason Smith. Hell, at one point,
Wingo.
Mason Smith was supposed to be like a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
There's a ton of guys in that group of next defensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
What do we have here with the Cardinals?
It's a hell of a value.
Yeah. You get him at pick 64. You can't be mad about that.
So this for the Panthers has to be a receiver, right? I mean, unless their GM is just not paying attention to their needs.
And it is. I mean, it's a guy who. I mean, it's a guy who covers the Panthers. So
okay. I mean, they signed Deontay Johnson, but they still need more weapons, I would say, for Bryce.
Yeah.
It's like
all right. So here I've got. Where would you be in kind of sorting the board here? These are some of the names that I have up there right now.
I would move. I mean, I personally, but feel free to do what you want, Greg, as the GM. I would move Cooper Beebe down. I'm not quite as high on him athletically. He's not really there, and I don't think guard. I mean, I'm not sold on the David Edwards being the starting guard for 16 games, but I don't think it's as big of a need, like you mentioned. The 1 technique spot locked in. The 3 technique, I think, to just get more pass rush on the inside is kind of needed. That actually looks pretty good. How you have it? We'll see how these picks go though. Man.
Just screw Bryce Young. Screw him.
He did.
He'll just throw it to himself. It's fine. They did get him Jackson Powers Johnson. Like at least there's somebody to let him stand there longer while no one gets open.
They gave that man diet Stephon Diggs and said go live on an island.
Lord. I would say the depth of the D line gives me a little bit of hope that I think we could still get someone good with our 4th round pick or a slight move up there. But I just want Bill's content creators and media people to have to say Ruka
seriously.
I call him Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
Yes. Because
he's a.
I want to hear Steve Tasker say Ruka.
Don't do that. Don't do that to Tasker. That's not nice.
I love
it's funny, but it's not nice.
I need Roger to have to say it. That's
yes.
All right, so that makes sense with the D line. So I would say maybe Anand's idea of going wide receiver again. I mean, double dipping with Brandon Aiyuk and Javon Baker, or like I think how you have the board stacked. Which everyone will love that, fans and people in the chat, or the board that you had Jaden Hicks, one of those, which you have it kind of how you have it built out, I think is pretty solid.
Yeah. I thought they needed a receiver when they had Stephon Diggs. I thought they needed a receiver, just from that standpoint. So, I think they certainly need 2, and I'd like to see one on a rookie contract to be able to kind of balance some of those pieces out. Oh, we got a trade offer. Let's see, we're on the clock. Don't be Javon Baker. Let me choose here. Don't make the choice for me. Okay.
Oh.
Davian Sanders. Oh, that's cool. That Cardinals offense will be fun. And give Kyler, Malik Neighbors,
Tavian
Sanders.
Yeah,
And Trey McBride too.
Oh yeah.
Just loading up with picks next year.
Yeah. So we can move down 2 more spots, and we'll have 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4.
I wonder what the Browns. Maybe that's. Is it receiver? You decide, Greg. You make the call.
I mean, they're not gonna. It's not gonna be a receiver. I mean, they traded for Judy. They got Cooper. They got.
True.
They're in pretty good shape. They're all right. I accepted the trade. We only moved down 2 spots. The Patriots already took 2 receivers.
There are currently
Hey,
no weather alerts.
You be quiet, Alexa. And I think I'm gonna go Baker.
Okay.
And I think this will put us into a really good spot. We're going to now, we did trade away our first. I think that's dangerous, but now we're going to have 2 seconds, 2/3, and 3/4 because we'll have the comp pick for Gabe Davis. I think this could put us into a really good position where now we're still going to have that kind of combination. Obviously, adding Brandon Aiyuk is going to be huge.
Greg after dark.
That's right.
I think that something else, Greg, that matters too is Brandon Beane's built a borderline championship roster with a wide receiver, one that makes that kind of money that Brandon Ayuk's going to make. And so that gives me confidence that not only does he already know how to do that, but he's already done it before, kind of knows what to look for. So,
yeah. And
point.
now being in that position where you're kind of almost restarting the clock. Like, I think there's a fair amount of similarities between Brandon Aiyuk and, it's Stephon Diggs. If you went back and we were getting Stephon Diggs that just turned 26. So getting a guy that, he wants to be paid a lot. That's fine. But I'm okay paying a guy for his age 26, 27, 28, 29 seasons. Like, that's good. That's what you're supposed to invest in. That's how that's supposed to work. So
especially if you have Curtis Samuel, reasonable deal, Khalil Shakir, rookie deal, Javon Baker in this case,
Dalton Kincaid, rookie deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Let's see who this is.
Patrick Paul. The GM for the Patriots did a nice
That's
job.
It's a very New England pick too.
Yeah, so that's Matt Zeiger, who's has a new show that he started up here and ended up putting together a pretty solid team there. Got McCarthy,
JJ, the trade.
Lad McConkey, Keon Coleman, and now adding Patrick Paul. That'd be a help. That'd be the best Patriots draft in quite a while. I'm gonna give the people what they want. We're gonna take Javon Baker. We have now we have given Josh Allen, Brandon Aiyuk, and Javon Baker while getting Chris's edge 1. I now feel a lot better about our
Greg
draft
after
here.
dark.
I've also recouped a fair amount of our capital. The fact that we gave up our 1 next year, but now have 2 2s, 2 3s, 2 4s.
You feel fine about that then?
You're in much better shape to be able to do that and to be able to kind of manage that kind of loss next year. It might even be 3/4 by the time right now we're slated to get a comp pick, a 4th, 5th, and 6th as a comp pick. So if that holds true, I know it didn't this year, so there's gonna be people yelling at me in the chat that I know we got screwed this year, but hopefully that doesn't happen 2 years in a row, and we end up getting that 4th, 5th, and 6th. It could be really good. A couple of the guys we talked about all went right around us. Michael Hall went right beforehand, and now Ruka went.
There was no one else. Or those 3 were the ones. Or James Hicks is still there too. But.
Yeah, basically right now, and I don't think I would do it this early, but we're in the late 4th. At some point, what I would probably do is set this list, and I would try to figure. So here, you help me do this, Chris. At what point? I know you have Hicks first, but at what point do you have a a significant drop off between those top 5 guys: Bullard, Hicks, Bishop.
I don't have my list in front of me right now, and I feel like if I open another tab, my computer might blow up. I have Hicks and Bullock actually as my top 2 safeties.
Okay.
But I kind of feel, and like you said it before that Baker pick, that clump of like 5 safeties right there. I mean, maybe they're all gone by 128, but like I think they're all solid players, and for it to be, and even Malik Mustafa to still be there. Like
our guy Steve Mathis loves Dadrian Taylor Demerson. I've heard
he's
some
a good
people
player.
Love that.
Renardo Green. This is Sion Baki. Like there's some fun guys.
It's a good safety class, like late
Yeah.
day 2 into day 3. So you're right that I think if you're just looking at what position should the Bills address at what portions of the draft, maybe it is with 128 that you just say, let's just let the safety board fall to us. And we're going to get probably a good player that Sean McDermott can kind of coach up and get the most out of.
So what I would probably do, so Javon Bullard just went, and I would basically stack it with, okay, we have another pick coming in hot and heavy. Jalen McMillan just went. So 3 Washington receivers in the top 100 or so picks. So what I would do is I would probably stack those guys, and as we see them come off the board, the 4 that are there, I would, as like the second or third one comes off, I would probably then try to start moving up. As long as there's 4 of them there, I would just kind of keep holding it out. And then if 2 of them go and there's only 2 left, I would then probably try to jump up to that area to see if I can still snag one.
That makes sense.
Go that route. The same idea. You look at that exercise. The same thing. We had a little bit of a run there. They hurt us at the interior D line. You have the 2 LSU guys still there: Dwayne Carter, McKinley Jackson.
I like Gabe Hall too. I mean,
I would say Gabe Hall. Some people I haven't seen anything of him, but I know a couple of people like Christian Boyd. Smaller school guy. The last Northern Iowa guy we picked, it turned out okay. Spencer Brown's developed into a starting right tackle.
Yeah.
Just while we're filling time here, Chris, where are you on extending Spencer Brown?
I think on the surface, it's like they definitely should, because he has done exactly what they hoped for. They're like, hey, look, it's going to be a long-term project. He was a freaky athlete, didn't play that final season because of the COVID year. And is, like you mentioned, like that Jets Monday night opener, that disastrous game, he was so bad. After that, you didn't hear about Spencer Brown the rest of the season. And we all know that that's a good thing. But I wonder if the injuries that he's had to have surgery, I believe, the last 2 off seasons, and maybe did he have this off season as well? Another cleanup?
I don't think so. I think he actually was his first maybe his first healthy off season in a long time.
So I think because of that, just because of the importance and to even be in this room and see that the Rams pick Amarius Mims to extend Matthew Stafford's career, I think protecting Josh Allen, the Bills understand how important that is, and with Brown being that just steady right tackle that still even has probably even more upside because he's so big and so athletic. Yeah. I think they kind of almost need to do it if, again, all the medicals check out and they feel confident that he can stay healthy and he's not going to have cleanup surgery every offseason.
Yeah. So quick recap here. Cozy asked a good question just for people joining now. We've made a couple trades. So we had a big run at wide receiver before we picked at 28. There were 6 receivers that had gone. So we went with Chop Robinson, got Chris's number 1 edge on his board. We then moved back twice in the second, a couple small trade downs. We picked up a 3rd and a 4th round pick, and we traded once we saw that run at receiver, we traded our 2025 first for San Francisco 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk. So we did trade away our first, but we then, between the Diggs trade and the 2 trade downs here, we did recoup a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So we have 2 2nd rounders, 2 3rd rounders, and 2 4th rounders next year, plus potentially more of another 4th and 5th in comp picks. So really, I think set up things well. We then took, after the 2 small trade downs, with the 5th pick in the 3rd round, which would be pick 69, we took Javon Baker, and now are set up really well from a receiver standpoint going forward, adding Brandon Aiyuk and Javon Baker to the receiving room we have now. So I think that came together, pretty well.
Yeah, it did. You did a great job, Greg. Yeah. Guys, I'm going to hop out.
Appreciate your time here, Chris.
But
this
yeah,
was a ton of fun.
Very nice meeting everybody. This was a lot of fun. This software is like, even for 2024, and we're in this AI chat GPT world, this is crazy. It's really cool.
It's really, really cool. I like the guys over. Again, to anybody who's watching here, it's called walkthemock.com. And it's been really, really fun. This is the second year we played around with this. So Chris, I'll make sure to let you know next year you can help me do some recruiting. We'll get some more GMs that maybe people who won't trade away all the future picks. We'll get it set up. This has been a ton of fun, and I appreciate you giving us some time tonight.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Later, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Take care, man.
So, all right, where are we at here? Now we got the Broncos. This is the hard part. Now I gotta be way too patient. I got a long way to go until our fourth rounders that come up here to kind of wrap things up at the end.
This is where championship rosters fall apart.
That
right?
Third and fourth round. This is
where you blow shit on a punter. This is where you unnecessarily decide to go with an off-ball linebacker that's probably a round or two above where he should be taken.
Weird quarterback reach that is never going to make, never going to play.
You don't win the draft in round 3 or 4, but you can certainly lose it.
Yeah, being able to find consistent contributors, guys that are going to be able to come in and, they're going to play snaps for you. They're going to contribute to your team, and you're going to be able to get, there. Especially you look at how many starters at some of the non-premium positions.
Jacksonville.
Yeah, so this is the exact kind of player I was talking about. If you look at starting guards across the league, do you know how many of the top guards were third and fourth round picks? Like that's where you find your guards, your centers, your one-tech defensive tackles, your safeties, your running backs. Like this is where a ton of that all of the premium tight ends were third, fourth, fifth round picks. Like this is where those non-premium positions, this is their like first round for those kind of positions, is to find them in the third and fourth round.
And when you look at it, here's the question that we've got to answer. The draft is really a value proposition, right? What we're doing here, this is a risk analysis assessment. If your quarterback that you take in the top 10 hits, they are worth that pick 100% of the time. If the tight end that you draft in the top 10 of round 1, let's say you're the Jets at 10, if Brock Bowers hits, Greg, I want you to go to Over the Cap and run me this number. Go look at what the 10th overall pick's salary will be. You've locked yourself into 4+1 as a 5-year contract, basically. Go look at what you are paying him. Even if he's what you think he is, you're still not getting much of a discount on what Brock Bowers is. Because, again, you're not drafting a player, you're drafting a contract. And if that's how you look at this, suddenly all of the reaches, quote unquote, in round 1 makes sense. All of the guys in round 2 and round 3 that are safe make sense. All of the crazy dart throws at these positions that are important that we talk about, like tight end, interior offensive lineman, running back. We're not saying that these aren't important players. We're saying that no matter how great you are, these contracts don't matter long term relative to what a quarterback or wide receiver 1 or a tackle or an edge rusher make. That's what you're really drafting. You're drafting a contract, not a player.
That 10th pick, it's $3.8 million is the cap hit this year, and it's a 4-year, $21 million contract. So at the highest, you're going to be paying, an average of 5.5. A little,
which
over
is more than tight ends make.
Correct. There's, you think about what you see. Look at some of the safeties and what they signed for. It's been such a deflated market. We obviously know running backs and how beat to death that conversation has been. But a lot of those position centers. Look what Mitch Morse just signed for going down to Jacksonville.
Mitch Morse rocks, by the way.
Yes,
Mitch Morse is awesome.
Yeah.
It's a quarterback world. We're all living in it. Everything is trickled down from there, whether it's receiver, left tackle, edge rusher, corner, even. We just laugh about it, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guy.
Ah,
No.
Got sniped.
Yeah.
Sniped.
He's one of my favorite players in this draft. Kieran Amandaji is a tackle from Yale. We think that he's probably going to project more to guard at the league level. Chris, who just hopped off, and I were talking about it. Man, there's a lot to love about his game.
yeah. It's well, I mean, so far, when people ask me about what, there's one. I love Malik Washington. Like, anytime you see somebody with those measurables get the stamp of approval from Steve Smith, I'm like, all right, I'm in. If Steve Smith says a guy like that and that size can play, I'll trust it. I'll trust him on that. So with the Bills, and you look at, obviously I don't think they're going to be looking at the range that Amagaji would go, but when people are asked, who do you think the Bills should take at offensive tackle, I just, whatever day 3 guy is the like 6'9" guy with 35-inch arms, that's who Aaron Kromer is going to want, because that's all we do. That's all we take. It's just Spencer Brown, Tommy Doyle, Ryan Vandemark, Alec Anderson, like whoever the guy who's crazy tall with crazy arm. When you go to training camp, it's just like 5 of the same dudes. They're all 6'8" or 6'9". They all have crazy long arms, and they all look the same.
We talk about this a lot on the pod. Obviously, I'm with Matt Kelly, Podfather, Player Profiler, and we talk about this a lot on our show. The guy that you want in late day 2, early day 3 is the nasty interior and offensive, defensive lineman from some school you've never heard of. It's the guy that dominated the shit out of the SWAC. That's the guy that you want. That's the guy that you want. Because, I mean, as much as I love Alabama defensive tackles and as badass as they're going to be, they're probably tapped out. If you think your defensive line coach, if you think your DB coach is better than what Nick Saban had at Alabama, I got really bad news for you. They're probably tapped out in terms of what they're getting.
All right. Ooh, who do we have for the Bengals here? What do we got? Brandon Dorless, okay.
Fun player.
She got 2 more picks until
Yeah, I've got a couple that I'm looking at here. One of them is pure just upside. One of the guys that I'm looking at here, just full disclosure for everybody that's watching, I'm sure the other GMs might be also. People love Spencer Rattler, and I understand why, because you rarely find round 1 tools outside of round 1. People,
obviously he's fallen off from where he was originally projected, but those flashes were real. Like, he was talked about as the number 1 overall pick at one point for a reason.
If the wiring all gets there, you're still looking talent-wise at a number 1 pick, or at a number 1 draft pick, so to speak. I don't know that he would still go 1 overall given what we have in this class, but I mean, you're still talking about a top 15 player in the class if the wiring ever gets right. And so, I mean, if you're the Rams, you're value hunting. That's what you're trying to do here, because you don't have a ton of draft picks. You don't have the wealth of capital that other teams have, because so much of your capital was spent trying to assemble a championship roster around Goff and then around Stafford. So a lot of those round 1 picks that are gone, that are your highest value, most valuable picks that you have, are just into the ether. They're gone. The other part of this that really doesn't get talked about is we kind of suck at evaluating first round draft picks.
Oh, yeah.
Like, half of the first round is going to bust, but but again, a first round
nature
draft
versus nurture pieces of that you can always debate. But yes, it is historically at best literally a coin flip.
And the thing is, we don't talk about first round picks as coin flips. We talk about first round picks as first round picks.
Oh, look,
God,
that's a red look.
Speak of the devil. Speak of the devil.
I really want that to have been someone who was watching the stream, and they're like, "Oh,
that'd be
well,
perfect. Yeah.
if Anon was going to take him, I'll take him."
Son of a bitch.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Oh God,
Yeah.
I'm so back and forth between 2 or 3 of these guys. That's my guy. I'll take him. I'll take him. Fine. I'm not happy about missing out on the other 2 that I could have taken here, but this is my guy.
Okay.
This is one of the guys that I've kind of put on a billboard as if you want to run your Seattle cover 3, Dan Quinn is foaming at the mouth, by the way. If you want to run your base Seattle cover 3 and you just want a corner that's going to beat the shit out of people at the line, Kyrie Jackson is your guy. 6'4". I mean, you're talking
6'4",
old school build for a corner.
6'4". That's wild.
Oh yeah.
Aren't his arms crazy long too? I feel like.
Yep.
Was he okay? Yeah.
If you want a combine warrior, this is your guy.
That's the guy. Hey, honestly, some of those measurable guys translate. Some of them do.
We've seen Seattle run it off a couple of years in a row with guys that,
yeah.
I'll take my. It was much like the Anthony Richardson thing last year, where if I'm going to miss on a quarterback top 5 in the first round, yeah, I will gladly miss on the 99th percentile athlete.
Yep.
I'll live with that.
Yeah, I mean that's where the Bills, when you talk about like the Spencer Brown pick, and you were talking about like those guys who just mauled people at Northern Iowa. When you're going to take a swing. At the time, Spencer Brown had the best RAS score, like the most athletic offensive lineman in testing history. In the late 3rd round, maybe that doesn't pan out, but if it does, it pans out with the biggest, strongest, fastest guy that's been tested. Like that's what you want to take swings on, and that's why those measurables and those traits, it's why the guys do that. It's you have a chance to figure out like, oh yeah, this guy's going to be a fantastic hit, or if he misses, okay, he misses. But if you end up getting a hit on a guy who has very mediocre or average measurables, it'll significantly reduce the upside. All right, so now we've seen this is what I was kind of monitoring for. I've seen a couple of the safeties go. I've still got 3. I've got Hicks, Kinchins, and Bullock still on my board. Hicks and Bullock were Chris's safety 1 and 2, who are still here. So I might try to move around a little bit and see if I could come up and get one of these guys.
I was just say the draft community loves Adrian Taylor Demerson, the safety from Texas Tech.
I know our guy Steve Mathis, who hosts one of our shows on Cover One, is a huge fan of his.
Him, Malik Mustafa, obviously, who we talked about earlier from Wake Forest, is a spark plug of dynamite in the run game specifically.
Anand, what do you think about Jalen Simpson? Like of that tier of safety, he's one of my favorites. I know undersize is an issue, but overall, I like his game.
I want to love him so badly. It's just I can't get the visions of Auburn's defense anytime I watch them out of my head, and I'm like, I know how well he does in the structure of what he was asked to do, but the rest of that defense was just so bad.
Yeah, painful.
Yeah, that was just tough to watch, man.
Yeah,
and
he's one of those guys where like I see Anthony Prohaska has cut a lot of clips of his work, and like I love everything about his game except that like it's close to 0% weight, like 179. I'm just like, I don't, you're gonna bounce off NFL guys, like I don't know.
Are you gonna be able to
everything
consistently
else
tackle?
Right. Yeah. Can you sort through the traffic? Can you be that last stop?
And the question that you have really at that point is, am I taking a strong enough stab here at the end of round 3? Or would I rather wait into the pools of late round 4, early round 5?
Oh yeah,
where
I'd wait longer. Yeah.
That's the weird part about this is like we've artificially assigned values to all of these positions, and some of them are right and some of them are just wrong. Like we're being told we're wrong over and over and over again. I don't know that there is a draftable punter or kicker. I mean, there are. I just don't know that we're good enough at identifying them that those matter. Because if we're right, Roberto Aguayo is the guy that you draft. And
that's exactly how that's supposed to work.
Cuttable immediately. And so when people are like, oh, Belichick was brilliant for drafting a kicker in round 4 or whatever the hell it was. Guys, what are we doing here?
Right. Yeah.
I did just move up. I got Chris's number 1 safety on his board, Jaden Hicks. So I gave up a 4 and some of our 5th rounders to move up here. And so now I have Chop Robinson, Javon Baker, Jaden Hicks. We obviously traded for Brandon Aiyuk. So coming together pretty well here. Feel like we're checking some boxes. I'll now be looking at like interior offensive line and interior defensive line with that last 4th round pick that we have here. I think you got one more here in this exercise, Anon.
Yep.
I think the 3rd round comp pick.
3rd round comp. Something about Jaden Hicks, it's a lot of fun, is he's almost a linebacker playing safety. Kind of, he has, in the same way that I'm not saying he's the same player. He's not at all. But in the same way that like a Cam Chancellor or a Troy Polamalu had linebacker-y vibes playing safety, Jaden Hicks has linebacker-y vibes playing safety. He's not either of those two by any means as an athlete.
We'll talk about the both of our 2 former players that's with the Bills now, Taylor Rapp.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that.
There are a lot of Taylor Rapp vibes.
Yeah, so you have a guy that again with a 3rd round pick, you're not having to force to play him. The Bills have Taylor Rapp and Mike Edwards plus DeMar Hamlin. I think that puts them into a pretty good position where you can bring Hicks in and play special teams, play some sub packages, and be ready. Rapp's on a multi-year deal, but Edwards was on a 1-year deal. So you're able to have him kind of just mentor and learn and be ready to step in next year.
Who is the Colts GM? Because I love this.
Destin App. Destin's really good. Destin does a great job. He helped me do some of the recruiting to kind of host for tonight. He does a great work for them, and he now works with A to Z Sports.
Yeah.
They do great stuff. Where'd he start? So he got Brian Thomas Jr. at 15. Really nice pick there. Then St. Russell in the 2nd, and then comes back with Cam Hart here. I think he's made a couple of nice trades too. So he's got might have a couple more picks floating around. Yeah, he picked up
such a classic Chris Ballard draft too. Just find the value where other people don't. A Mikey Sainristil still. Where, hey, we'll take him a little earlier than someone else will, but we're also going to squeeze a little more out of the orange than someone else would.
Yeah.
Julius Brents last year, Juju.
Yeah.
Another one. You go back to like a Michael Pittman Jr. I wish we could go back in time. And like as Bills fans, obviously, I know a lot of you are Bills fans watching this, so you don't wish the same. But I wish we could go back in time and like cancel Ryan Grigson's existence and just give the Colts Chris Ballard from the day that Andrew Luck was drafted.
Era.
Yeah. So he doesn't ruin.
He'd still be playing. He'd still be playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, could have been a different world. It's so weird that we only got 7 or 8 seasons from Luck. It's so weird.
Drafted in 12, and I think he retired in 19. Oh my god, dude, that's so good. That was 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's wild. I still will never forget. I was Reggie Wayne was still playing. Who was the Colts?
T.Y. Hilton.
Hilton, that's who it was. Hilton was their top guy. longtime fantasy drafts. It's been like college friends. We're about to have our 20th draft this fall. All the same guys, same league for 20 years. That night, the same guy had, I don't remember who it was, but there was someone else that same weekend who tore their ACL in practice. And I won't be able to remember who it was, but he had drafted T.Y. Hilton, Andrew Luck, and that guy that day. And like as the day went, Andrew Luck retired, the running back tore his ACL, and he had T.Y. Hilton with Andrew Luck retiring. And like we went out and he's like, yep, my entire fantasy.
Well, my life is over.
Done.
Yeah, my entire fantasy team lasted like 4 hours.
See you
I'm
next
glad
year.
we did this.
The Dolphins,
Yeah.
Tom Ernest is doing an annoyingly good job for the Dolphins too. So the Dolphins traded back a couple times, got A.D. Mitchell, got Chris Braswell, got Roger Rosengartner. So he got Rosengartner with a pick he got for trading back the first time. And then the second trade back, he's about to make another pick here. So that was a really nice haul by Tom. I'm really annoyed the Patriots and the Dolphins guys are doing a great job.
That's what you want, though, right? You want their drafts to go as well as possible to adjust your own expectations.
Yeah.
So that Thursday night when we're all clamoring for information and, I've got 19 headsets on running through the streets of Detroit, that, we can make some sense out of whatever the hell goes on in the first round. Because that's so much drama. Let's be real. It's 32 draft picks. It doesn't need to be as dramatic as it is, but it is for TV production reasons, and I get
correct.
it.
This could easily just be a spreadsheet.
Oh yeah,
this could be a conference call and a spreadsheet and done in a matter of an hour.
Greg, this could be a Scantron. Let's be
real.
Correct.
Yeah.
And instead, it's a $100 million event for the league. Go Rocks.
And yeah, hey, and we're all gonna go watch every minute of it.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be the real sickos. Wait until the end so they can see if their favorite players get drafted or priority UDFAs.
Day 3 is such a just.
Round 7 is my favorite because you have agents actively calling people like, "Yo, don't draft him. He's not coming."
So it's really funny. Obviously the Bills just signed Lel Collins, and that one still is hysterical. When the medical stuff happened and he started to fall, and then his agent just outright was telling people, listen, he's not going to show up. Do not draft him. Because they knew they could get a bigger deal as a record-setting UDFA contract versus whatever day 3 contract he was going to get. It was hysterical.
Well, I think that's a part of the process that we don't really talk about. Just in our industry, obviously, I know you and I talked about this and chatted about it before. But being able to draft someone in round 1 with basically a known 7 years of cost control is an insane amount of leverage that just doesn't exist in another sport. Especially one where your livelihood is at stake every snap of the ball.
There's a lot of control in baseball, but there's also fully guaranteed contracts. So but yeah, that's fine. You control it, but you're going to pay me this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see who the Dolphins' other choice is going to come up as. Kitchens. All right. Staying home.
Doesn't have to move far.
Yeah, just drive down the road. Where are you on Kitchens with like the kind of sketchy testing numbers versus actually watching him play?
This is a little bit early for me. He is firmly a day 3 guy for me. It's a lot of a projection. I understand why people love him, but we live in a risk tolerance world. And to me, there are just players that play the same position that I'm more comfortable with as a median than he is. Something that I think that, we should talk about more that we don't is we project our favorite players, the guys that we like, at sometimes a 75, 80th percentile outcome. Whereas guys we're average on, we projected like a 50, 60th percentile outcome. Guys we have some reason we don't like, we projected a 30th percentile outcome. And the odds that any of them actually end up where we think they will, just based on our own cognition and how we sort through how we feel about all these guys, is rare. And so I think if we had a draft where you could just cut through everything and give everyone a 50th percentile outcome, I think we would have a drastically different reading of positional value and of draft capital than we do now.
Yeah, I think that's a smart way to look at it, because then you get into, you don't, it doesn't have to be that, well, if he turns out as, the ceiling comp, that it's going to work out great. But yeah, but if he's just average, you just picked an average guard, or you just picked an average safety. Oh man, a couple guys right in a row here that Bullock, this run here: Rosengarten, Bullock, Kitchens, Taylor Demerson, Carter. I am glad I traded up to be able to get Jaden Hicks, because now having seen them all go in a row here, and the Bills waiting trying to pick up one of those guys.
I know that it's not beneficial to my team, but I need Taylor Demerson in a Falcons in a Dirty Birds uni. That's just a dream culture fit.
Well, I know there's some size concerns, but talk about, like a center fielder guy being able to make plays outside the hashes, outside the numbers. Like Taylor Demerson's got, he's got, there's a chance that he's one similar to our conversation with Spencer Brown, that like, if you're going to make bets, and especially at safety, where, we talked about like the linebacker type thing, and that it's a lot easier to find the box guys than it is to find the guys who can have crazy range. If you're gonna miss on a guy that, if he hits, ends up having that like true center fielder ability.
Wait, because I mean, if you think about it this way, right? If you're looking at a 50th percentile outcome and you see someone, Josh Allen's a perfect example for Buffalo. Josh has probably hit his 95th.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even 99th percentile outcome.
Yep.
The odds are the next quarterback you draft is probably hitting his 5th, maybe even his 10th. And if you get another good one, great. But the odds that you're that good at scouting quarterback specifically are basically zero, because no one's been able to do it consistently. Whereas you look at something like Pittsburgh, where they scout wide receivers a certain way. Yeah, you could probably project Pittsburgh wide receivers at their 70th percentile outcome, because they hit it more often than not.
Yeah, when you're, you just pick, whichever Steelers day 2 receiver they pick, I'm comfortable betting that, hey, I bet that guy's pretty freaking good, because whatever their rubric is that they value or have as their special sauce, it works. It hits over and over and over again. It's it's just obvious that they're very good at picking that particular spot.
And the proof is mainly in doing it consistently, which is funny because you won't know until years later. I mean, it was exactly what we talked about earlier in terms of when I took Kyrie Jackson. The projection is a Seattle DB from 2013 to 2016. And they were incredible at drafting those guys for that archetype at that point, once upon a time. So, one can only hope. But again, they're all projections, because you can't just drop them from their college situation into their new one and expect 100% accuracy in terms of how we look at what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I to a lesser extent, Tim here bringing up the Bills with their day 3 DBs with Christian Benford, Dane Jackson, Levi Wallace,
yeah.
like over and over and over again, finding 6th, 7th round UDFA guys and turning them into not superstars, but 6th and 7th
valuable
round guys
players.
UDFAs are not supposed to be starters, and you're having starting NFL players for what ended up being very good pass defenses. That goes a long ways.
Huge deal, because so much of what doesn't get talked about is the war of attrition that happens in the NFL, where by week 16, 17, 18, and into the playoffs, your depth matters so much more than your stars do, to an extent.
Yeah, you look at like how many teams you end up, those like compound injuries where all of a sudden you get the cascading ones where you're not only so the Bills in the playoffs at linebacker, like losing Matt Milano sucked, but losing Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard and Terrell Dodson, it just was unsustainable. Like now you're freaking having AJ Klein in pass coverage just because there wasn't anyone else there. It's those compound ones that kill you.
This is one of my favorite players in this draft.
Oh, Mo Kamara. Dude, looking at him and seeing that, like, it's so hard not to see like an Elvis Dumerville or hell, just another Colorado State, another Hassan Reddick, like just that thick, tightly wound guy that like, hey, that's not how edge rushers are supposed to look. How does he keep getting to the quarterback? I don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, and we need edge rush help bad. Kobe Turner was awesome.
Fantastic.
Ben Sinnott. Oh, great pick.
Absolutely. When Chris and I were talking about the drop off at edge, he was the one guy. Like when you get past that first wave of the top 5 or 6 edge rushers, the one guy that is there, you know, in a little bit later area that I'm interested in is Mo Kamara. I think there's a shot he ends up being.
I think there's a really decent shot that NFL teams like him even more than we do, and that he goes somewhere in the middle of that group, even middle end, but above some of the guys that we think should go, in theory, would go ahead of him.
Apparently, the Panthers GM thinks they're all set at wide receiver. Just thinks they are good to go. It's wild,
brother.
Okay.
What?
Yep. Sure.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I guess we're just gonna run the Marcus Mariota throw to yourself pass.
Seriously,
yeah, for real.
Oh man, that's a tough ask.
Yeah.
I want to love the fuck it, I don't care philosophy.
Yeah.
I just
Well, here, now that for this exercise, now that your picks are done, kind of walk us through the 4 picks you made for the Rams.
Yeah, so Amarius Mims is just physical freak. You hope that medical wise your team has enough to keep him upright often enough to make the pick valuable. We saw the Jets do this not so long ago in the first round with mixed results, we'll say. I just think that the talent is so obvious there. Even against premier edge rushers in the SEC when he's out there, he's too productive to ignore. Malachi Corley, just read anyone's draft analysis. This is a guy that is unanimously loved by everybody and with good reason. Guy just gets open. That's what you want out of a wide receiver. We can argue about, is he the biggest guy? Is he the strongest guy? Is he the fastest guy? He gets open against every level of competition. When you get to Kyrie Jackson, we talked about his physical acumen, and then Mo Kamara, just a freak among freaks. And whoever's running Seattle's, I love their draft too. Renardo Green, good player, man. Damn it.
Kuaga, Spencer Rattler.
Oh, that's such a good draft. I hate whoever's running Seattle.
Yeah, so it's the same experience we're having with the Patriots and the Dolphins. I don't like seeing guys in the division do well.
Yeah. Shout out to whoever's running Seattle. Killing.
Yeah. Well, at least San Francisco traded away Brandon Aiyuk, so you get him with Josh Allen, which gets entertainment.
Oh, yeah, but no worries.
Francisco.
We'll just deal with Johnny Newton for 5
Yeah, we're just gonna throw him in, into that defensive line that is lacking for talent. Always struggling. Talk about position coaches? Like, at what point does their San Francisco D-line coach get a promotion?
Oh, I think he's been promoted several times. It's who was it? Why am I blanking on?
Did you get a DC gig?
Why am I blanking on his name right now? Chris Kokorik.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
There was someone there right before him, though, that was also ridiculously good at this, which there are not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's been the Niners D-line coach since 2019.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent haul.
And I mean, what he's produced over and over and over again with that group that's pretty crazy.
Especially given that your head coach is an offensive guy.
Yeah.
And they've rotated coordinators in their defensively. I mean,
Yeah, that's actually the part that's been curious for me is that he never was the replacement for one of the guys. Like as their D coordinators have gotten head coaching gigs, that he never got the bump. And not every, you don't want the Peter principle. Like not everybody that's a good D-line coach is automatically a good defensive coordinator. It's not always how it works. I just like how much he's produced. It's crazy.
We don't talk about this often enough. And Matt and I talked about this on a show about a month ago. We talk a lot about failed head coaches being really good coordinators. What we don't talk about is failed head coaches and or failed coordinators being really good position coaches again.
Yes.
Just because that's what they're best at. And so you look at a guy like a Bill Callahan. Perfect example. Super Bowl head coach. If you want to go that far, came all the way back, is possibly, if not the best, offensive line coach in the league. And it's just an afterthought now. That's just, he's just a ball coach. He went from head coach to coordinator back down to position coach, and now he's really good again. No. What can we learn from that? There are guys that are just best served as position coaches. And if you're willing to pay them coordinator money to be position coaches because they're that much better than their peers, I think that's a significant value.
Oh, yeah.
Paying someone the money but asking them not to take the responsibility is every human being's dream.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, pay me. Well, look at what Dante Scarnecchia could have probably gone and done if he wanted to, if he just wanted to be ambitious. And you brought up Callahan. You see some of these other guys that hell, we're benefiting from it now. When Aaron Cromer was kind of a mediocre offense coordinator, but he's a hell of an offensive line coach. I'll take
Aaron's a dog.
Stepping back. Oh, but he's been great, dude. It's what he's produced with the group here. I'm kind of curious to see what happens now with, like I said, he was a big part of David Edwards coming over. So I think that's interesting to see if he's going to remain as a starter, or if they bring in somebody to compete there. You'll now have Lyle Collins, Jordan Travis.
Yeah, that's Whew. Catastrophic leg injuries for guys that need to run. Because again, the concern with a Michael Penix Jr. that you have is, do we have recurring injury history? Well, we have proof post-injury that he can take hits and avoid that. We have none of that for Jordan.
Even put together some pretty good testing, didn't lose all the athleticism.
No. Would I take Michael Penix Jr. early in round one? No.
But here, where he went, like whatever it was, like 47th, 49th, whatever it was, like mid-second, like, okay, you're now getting into that risk tolerance area where I'm a little more comfortable.
Well, either of you, whoever wants to chime in, like, think about it this way. And I almost tweeted this out earlier because I saw something from Jeremy Fowler. I think it was somebody tweeted something out about how many quarterbacks would go in round one. And here was my very simple question. Assuming all else is equal, nobody is taking another player. And I know that this isn't a real life scenario, but like assuming nobody else is taking another player. If you were Tennessee, you got Will Levis with the first pick of the second round last year. You functionally have a 4-year contract with no 5th-year option. How much would you pay to go up one slot to have that option if you needed it? Because if you're right, if they're worth a high second round pick, then as a quarterback, they are definitely worth a back end round 1 pick. And if that is your logic, if that's your, if that's what we're trying to prove here, I would give up a significant amount to have a 5th year cost control. Because if you go into year 5 with nothing, you end up with one of two scenarios. You end up with a Kirk Cousins that leaves, or you end up with a Daniel Jones that puts your face to the fire and says, are you going to pay me or not?
So the interesting part is I've actually been talking about this a little bit more from a salary cap standpoint. The new CBA has actually like milked a fair amount of the value out of the 5th year option, because the new structure, you're almost at the franchise tag, and now it's not really helping.
Like
The
70%.
one exception is quarterback. So you look right now, the 5th year option for the guys that are being picked up here, like Trevor Lawrence, is $25 million. So if you hit on quarterback, the 5th year option really does still give you a discount. Whereas, Jamar Chase's 5th year option is $21.8 million. Micah Parsons' 5th year option is $21.3 million.
I don't know that
Slater's,
I honestly don't even know that that's a discount for Micah Parsons, as great as he is. I really don't know that.
Rashawn Slater's 5th year option is $19 million. Penei Sewell's 5th year option is $19 million. The 5th year option is no longer a discount. So the Bills are a perfect example where, like, Gregory Rousseau has been good. He hasn't qualified. He's at the basic level. He hasn't hit any of the escalators. I think there's a chance that we extend him early and see further upside, and he's going to be a good starting defensive end. But his 5th year option is $13.4 million. Like, it's still a lot of money.
That's no escalator.
Correct. That's the cheapest one. If he hit any of them, the next
God.
ones for edge were 14.5, 19, and 21.3.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it just really has, it has really sucked a lot of the value out of what used to be. And everyone still has that mindset of, oh yeah, but you want to go up and get the 5th year option. And I will say, it does still matter at quarterback, because if you hit at quarterback, it's almost a 50% coupon. It's almost a 50%
position that
coupon.
I advise.
Yeah,
trading back into the very back end of round 1 for, if you have a high day 2 grade.
Well, look, your question is perfect. So, Chris, what do you think if they could do that over again? And let's say this year they're getting Joe Alt, they signed Calvin Ridley, they brought in Tony Pollard, they still have DeAndre Hopkins, they got Chigakonkwo. Like, they obviously have now isolated all the variables around Will Levis and feel pretty good that, hey, we're going to have a good read on what he is here. Let's say that they do hit. If they could go back, how much more would they have given up to move up one more spot? They traded up to 33 when they got that pick. If they instead had to trade it up to 32, how much do you think they would have given up to go do that?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I just made a trade with the 49ers, so I've been for
cool.
a second there in my head. I think you'd give up, whatever you would take to get him in the first. If he can be the guy, and evidently, as far as they're concerned, they feel like they've seen enough to.
Yes, I'm not
put
quite
the pieces
as cold
around
as maybe
him.
they are.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, I'm not convinced, but they seem to be thinking it's worth a shot, And so if you think you've got the guy to the point where it's not, okay, let's explore other options. It's all right, let's build around him. That's a completely different mindset. And if you think you have him, then, you're willing to do what the Bills did to get Allen, whatever it takes.
Well, and if you look, so I found the trade. They went from 41. They gave up 41 and 72 and this year's third to Arizona for 33, and they got 81 back. So they gave up 72 to get 81. So they gave the Cardinals a little move up in the third that year, and then this year's third round pick. So let's say instead of that, that they did roughly the same package, but instead of getting 81 back, they got back like a 4th rounder, like 120 or something like that.
Worth it.
You probably could have got 32. You probably could have moved up the one more spot.
Worth it.
And got 32. And now you would have had, or maybe it's this year's second instead of this year's third, or I don't know, whatever it might have, one more little bump they could have done. They obviously were pretty close. And now all of a sudden, if you hit, you get like a 50% coupon on that 1 year of your quarterback's contract.
And the other part is that adds, it's not even an escalator. It's just another year in your contract that you have,
just
no
another year
matter
control.
what, right? It's just another year of control where now you have year 6 instead of year 7 functionally, if you add the 2 franchise tags. Because I mean, even if you add, and nobody talks about this as much as we do, I know we chat on the timeline from time to time. No one talks about how like putting 2 franchise tags together really isn't that unreasonable a price anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
it used to be, but it's not anymore.
Yeah, there's a pretty good case that the Cowboys should just do that here.
Double franchise Dak here.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the. I was having this conversation with Phil. What is his last name? I can't remember. The Vikings guy. You see him all over the place.
Okay. Yeah.
Phil and I were talking about a year ago, kind of in the dead space of the off season, probably, let's say 14 months ago, just post Super Bowl, about where the line is on when you'd pay a quarterback. And I told him, for me, Kirk Cousins is the line.
Okay.
Because
so
there has
you don't pay Geno.
No.
Okay.
Not like that. I mean, if you can get to where Seattle got him, which, first of all, Raiders, great pick. Love Cedric Van Pran.
Nice. Yeah, you have Geno, you have Baker Mayfield got basically the same deal in Tampa Bay, the same ballpark.
Yeah. Those are the guys that you want to pay like they're the guy for a year or two.
Yeah.
But if
you want to pay him like Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, truthfully, you want to pay them like Daniel Jones's contract is structured, where on the surface it looks like it's big money, but
really
realistically
it's like 2
speaking,
years
it's a 2-year deal and get the fuck out. Yeah. I think the struggle there is,
love that Jamari Thrash pick by the
I want him to be great so badly just because his name is Jamari Thrash. Like, not that he's not a good
around the
football
board
player.
a ton. Yeah, they gave up a lot to move up to the 9th pick to get Arnold. So that's nice to get Thrash there mid 4th round.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because the way we talk about everything, things exist in a vacuum. And in real life, they don't. There are GM contracts on the table where people are worried about their jobs. There are director of player personnel that are worried about their jobs. And while we get to live in this kind of empirical world where we are doing right all the time, floors keep people's jobs. It's why JJ McCarthy will go significantly higher than he should in this draft. It's not about the ceiling. He represents a very safe floor. It's very unlikely that a JJ McCarthy profile is terrible. He's going to be at least passable in the NFL. There will be, at worst, guys that say, oh, I can fix that. And even though to you and I it sounds insane because we're not in that spot, that amount of leverage to be able to say, hey, there's something here has value.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see where you draw those lines. Where do you have Jared Goff in that group? Is he in the Cousins territory? Or is he below?
Age-wise, he has replaced Kirk Cousins as that line.
I agree.
If you think he's better than Jared Goff, you pay him. If you think he's worse than Jared Goff, you absolutely do not. Yep. And if you're unsure, then you just keep stringing it out until you can.
Yeah.
And I would rather not commit than commit. Even to Jared, who
I wish more teams had the discipline to
They won't. And again, it's not the reasons that we think, because we live in this empirical world where quarterbacks are quarterbacks and we can replace them and cycle them through. Whereas they live in a world where your quarterback knows your wife and knows, they golf together, and it gets to be a whole mess. But the truth of the matter is, for the most part, we have a decent bit of information on who these dudes are. if you hate Caleb Williams, you hate Caleb Williams for a reason other than playing quarterback, because nobody that understands what he does hates him for playing quarterback. If you don't like Drake May, there are certain things about his game that you find quirky. Okay, cool. Find me the same issues that you found in him in Justin Herbert and CJ Stroud and insert player here. Once you get beyond that, then there are legitimate complaints, I think, on guys. And I think that there are qualms that can be had. Not to say that the other two are perfect prospects by any means, but I think a lot of the times a lot of people just want to be mad about something. It's kind of what we do on Twitter. We're just here to be angry.
Find something to be mad about.
Find something to be mad about. And a lot of draft prospecting has gone from people that understand what they're looking at to I just want to be mad about something.
Yeah, I just need something to get mad about. Yeah. So Chris, you've waited a long time and you're almost up here with your second pick of the draft. Although I will say the idea of dropping and not having to be McCarthy and dropping Drake May into that Minnesota offensive system with the coaching, offensive line, the receivers, you're having the tight end, running back, having the entire setup. That's ideal for Drake May. That's a really nice situation for him.
Yeah, if I hadn't been able to get up for May, because I think his upside is worth the shot. Like I would have stayed at 11 and taken McCarthy, because for either guy, you're introducing them into this pretty well ready-made offense. Yeah. You know, you've got the best receiver in the league. You've got a solid, promising number 2. You just brought in Aaron Jones to handle the all-around running back duties after that was kind of a hole for your team last year, and you've got a solid offensive line, and you got
Darisaw and Brian O'Neill. Yeah, nice bookends. They signed Trent Sherfield, so obviously feel really good at receiver.
You don't need any more, right? You don't need any more.
It's all good.
If you have a guy who can take a punt to the butt, then you're solid. What else do you need?
And I actually thought they made one of the savvier moves of free agency where they somehow got Jonathan Grenard for cheaper than Daniil Hunter. Like they swapped and got the younger guy for less money that I'm not 100% that he's worse. Like they might have got the better guy who's also younger and cheaper.
Better and younger and also now cheaper. Yeah. If I was
Grenard's he got plenty of money. He got plenty of money.
Well, yeah.
But Daniil Hunter got even more.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's like they have for Minnesota, they have most everything except for dropping that QB in place. Like there's still some defensive backfield help. Harrison Smith is getting older, but that's a good team to drop a rookie quarterback into.
Oh yeah. Okay. And so I'll flip it to you this way, and what does it say to you that the team that has had Kirk Cousins the longest and knew him the best didn't pay him?
I think part of it is Kwesi understanding what it takes to build a championship contender. When you look at the archetype of a Kirk Cousins, you're talking about a precise pocket passer. You're talking about a guy that will absolutely throw for 4,000 yards, is going to sell tickets. The problem becomes, and you guys have seen this, a lot of you that are watching this are Bills fans. There are just things that Josh Allen does that you can't expect a Kirk Cousins to do. And when you watch that, the issue is in the playoffs, every down's a money down. We talk about money downs being third down in the NFL. In the playoffs, every down's a money down.
Oh, and Zinter just went. I was kind of hoping he made it.
Great player, man.
Yeah.
I'm a Buckeye. I love Zach Zinter with all my heart. I really hope that he heals up about as well as anyone can and has like a really long, lucrative NFL career, because he's a great kid and absolutely deserves that. But the problem that you have if you're bringing a Kirk Cousins to a Josh Allen fight is your quarterback cannot lift your offense in a way. Like he can't make you wrong. if your play call is wrong, if you're Kevin O'Connell with Kirk Cousins as your quarterback, if your play call is wrong and the defense is right, he can't make you wrong. Josh Allen can make you wrong even when your defense is right.
Yeah. When your defense is right and your edge rusher beats the tackle and the coverage is great and it's still a 15-yard run.
And that's why I call it rainbow chasing. That's why when you see a profile like an Anthony Richardson, you chase the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Because if you're right there, that
Oh.
is much more valuable than being right about a Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, correct. I mean, you talk about that versus like a JJ McCarthy. Like if you're right on JJ McCarthy, your best case scenario is Kirk Cousins. Like that's your best case scenario. Is that, hey, we might have, and that's, but having Kirk Cousins is better than not having Kirk Cousins. Like that's not a bad thing, but there's still a limit. He still won one playoff game in his career.
If JJ McCarthy hits, he's Brock Purdy with a Mario mushroom. Like is that what you're paying top 5 draft capital for? Like, this is not a knock on JJ McCarthy. I would love to have him as my quarterback if I'm an NFL team. But top 5 in the first round? No. The
jump has been wild for him.
Yeah. And again, like, I'm not the biggest Jaden. Think he needs to shore up his blocking a little bit, but that's an argument for another day.
When a guy's one of a guy's key attributes is that, like, well, we just haven't seen it from him yet. You know, like that should be a pause moment. You know, like, we think it's there, we just haven't seen it enough yet. Like, well, okay, like that should give me pause. Right? Like,
well, the thing is, it's not even like you're betting on a profile.
Oh, damn it.
Like that made sense when it was Ziggy Ansah. When we haven't seen it yet. Yeah. Let's hope he can do this.
Man. McCormick was going to be my pick.
Oh, McCormick's a great pick.
Damn it. Now I'm mad. Okay.
Yeah. You were finally ready to make your set. Your
I was finally ready to make another pick. And like, now I'm scrambling. I hate this.
Blake Corum. Okay. I can't decide if I think Corum's going to translate in the NFL.
Yeah. We're gonna go with Bo Limmer and put him at guard.
Okay.
Ooh, like that pick. To me,
you guys just cleaned out my queue, I think.
Corum is injury history wise. I think you hope for a Todd Gurley run.
Yeah, you're not gonna have a long time, but just hope that you get some good. Yeah, that stretch Zinter, McCormick, and Limmer all going.
That is such. Like, this is, for anybody listening, this is exactly how you navigate the end of the 4th round to the point where you look back in 3 years like, oh my God, we got this guy in the middle to the end of round 4. How the fuck we're signing him to a second contract?
Yeah. No, that's exactly what, you know, and again, from a contract standpoint, that's exactly where you want to do it. Have you, what do you hear on McKinley Jackson?
It's so hit or like the highs are the people that love him. Like, we'll try to steam you into early day 2. The people that are not fans, myself included, immensely talented football player. Like, there's no doubting the talent. The question that you have is, 1, is he going to hold up at the next level? And 2, how much of that is Texas A&M just didn't have anybody else?
Damn, I didn't even realize I lost Tanner Bortolini too.
Bertolini's a great one.
I got crushed here in that stretch.
You got somebody. You got a couple somebodies. All right.
So I was looking at trenches. I was looking to try to find someone. So Chris, when we were talking pre-show, I was kind of hoping maybe they had somebody missing on their board that was like down lower, and I could find a sneaky value on. Gabe Hall's an interesting one for. It's probably more like a 5 tech than a traditional 3 tech.
I love that all the top of the board are all running back.
Yes, their
Right,
board
you
is
know,
just.
I really wish like Minnesota hadn't signed, Aaron Jones
Yeah.
in the offseason, because I would have grabbed Corum earlier. Yeah.
He's a good player, man. Just it's gonna be so hard for me not to tell you to take Mustafa.
Yeah. I like adding Hicks in there with Rapp and Mike Edwards and Zamar Hamlin. I think they'll be that they
Yeah,
got
you
4
got
safeties. They'll be in good shape.
Yeah.
There's so many like Luke McCaffrey is so much fun.
Yeah. My co-host Aaron Quinn
Damn
is
it.
big.
Carson was just taken. God.
Chris is getting sniped 1 pick early each time.
Just constantly, every time I turn around. All right, yeah, I liked Carson better, but we'll go ahead and go with Pritchett. They need cornerback depth, absolutely out there. So, man, if I get sniped again,
I really did like, for whatever it's worth, I really did like Mackenzie Alexander. I really thought that was going to be the one.
Yeah.
I watched him at Clemson and I was like, it's all there. Someone can pull it all out.
Someone's going to, well, and that's where you get into the nature versus nurture part of that teams bust on players way more than players bust on teams. And that, if you had gotten him into the right situation, or you got him into like a Buffalo with like the DB coaches and what they've been able to do development wise, maybe that does end up working out. It's hard to. Nehemiah Pritchett, I like it. All right, so Bo Limmer, Nehemiah Pritchett, you got one more, and then I got the second to last pick, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
You don't want to wait to see what the Jets do.
What were the rest of their picks?
When I first saw it was Rich
Flowers,
that
Bullard,
had signed up for the Jets, I thought it was Burn River that had signed up for that. And I was like, boy, I can't see him signing up for the Jets, but it wasn't him. But.
Yeah, the Browns aren't very much fun in this exercise because they traded away a whole bunch.
Not even a little. Even a little.
All right, we got the Falcons. Oh, McKinley! Now my queue is literally cleaned up.
Damn, they took everybody you had queued.
Bastards.
They may force you into taking Braylon Allen.
Oh God.
He's not going to get to him.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I would say if you're going to pair somebody with Aaron Jones, Braylon Allen's the guy.
And his fall is too far at this point. So if Dallas doesn't take him, the Vikings.
So help me on anybody interior offensive line. I've seen some things on Hunter Nerzad, but anybody here that stands out to you that
the interior lineman?
Yeah. Or
so
anyone at tackle that you think kicks in? Delmar right here. Bish just said, I won't lie. Delmar Glaze is an elite name. That's a fantastic name.
You ask the kids these days, man. Let's see. Isaiah Adams, I think, could kick inside, but I wouldn't take him over. Like, let me put it this way. I would not trust him to sit out there at tackle, and so I would not take him at guard for that reason. Dallas doing something here.
Or Gabe. I do have Gabe Hall, the D line.
Tommy Eichenberg, Lord Jesus, that's a decision.
Braylon Allen's gone.
Yeah,
right.
I figured.
I
I think you just take your pick among them. There's nobody here that really stands out. I think at this point you're just all guessing. Scouting departments are doing more work than we are.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So,
Yeah,
Might-
like
this
Hunter,
actually
Hunter
might be the-
Norzad is a guy who oh, I can't remember if it's Eric or Ant right now. If had some good reps from him.
Okay.
I'm trying to look at my own nonsense from when I watched all these dudes, which feels like God years ago. Like, for everyone out there, we have not slept in a long time, and we do not
Okay.
get to sleep for a long.
I'm ready for this draft to get here real bad.
Yeah.
Oh man, it
All right,
seems to be longer every year.
Oh
Lord.
god, I ended up going Christian
There we
Boyd. I like adding, from a 3-tech standpoint. So we ended up putting together the Bills got Chop Robinson, Javon Baker, Jaden Hicks, Christian Boyd. Obviously, the biggest part, traded for Brandon Aiyuk, but also recouped a third and a fourth for next year. So between the Stephon Diggs trade and now the 2 trade downs, have 2 2s, 2 3s, 2 4s next year, which makes me feel a lot better for giving up the future first. So end up having 2 receivers, Javon Baker and Brandon Aiyuk. And the final pick of our exercise was quarterback Michael Pratt from Tulane.
Hey,
Anand, thank you for jumping on with us tonight, man. This is a ton of fun.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Dude,
Good
guys,
hanging out with you.
thanks for having me. Happy to come back anytime.
Yeah, this is great.
At some point, I really do hope. People call me an eternal optimist just because I feel like all of the teams that have not won a Super Bowl in my lifetime deserve that moment wherever they are. And so obviously when the time comes, I'm a Bills fan or a Bengals fan or a whoever fan. I was a Chiefs fan for a hot minute.
Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit, like hoping that somebody that has not won wins one.
Yeah.
Just because I think every sports fan and especially every football fan deserves that moment where they get to go to a parade, whether it's one time in your life or, looks like Kansas City's on their way to 15 of them.
Yeah.
I think everybody deserves that one. And so for that reason, as long as I can, I'm going to cheer for, if it's not my squad, I'm going to cheer for the team that, deserves to have a parade in their city. And it seems like as close as we're going to get, man. Buffalo's waited so long. There have been so many that were that close. I think that there were 3 or 4 times that I picked them to win outright. So
we appreciate
hopefully
it.
soon, man.
Yeah, we appreciate it greatly.
Amen.
It was a ton of fun talking to you tonight, man. This is great. The chat was awesome. You guys were fantastic. We appreciate you guys sticking with us this entire time. Had a lot of fun with it. I'll put out the final results here for everybody. But on behalf of Chris Seth and Anand Nanduri and our friend Chris Trapasso earlier on, I'm Greg Thompson. You've been listening to the Greg Thompson Sports Show, and we are out.